And we're live. So, hey, what's up, Orlando?
What's going on, Caesar?
Not much. Um, yeah, Ben, we've never really, besides the day when I called you to ask you if you want to do this,
Yeah,
we don't have too much interaction, at least not on, talking and texting and stuff.
yeah,
So I just wanted to do this. Like, hey, I do want to talk to you. I watched your other interview that you did and stuff, and so I was like, I'm gonna call and see if y'all ever wants
yeah,
to just chat with me. I haven't really done this in a while. Like at least not on my channel. Like I do
yeah,
it through the
yeah,
four collectors.
yeah. I'm glad you're doing it through your channel because your channel is one channel that I watched for so long, and one of the first channels that I first started watching on YouTube. Probably about 5 6 years ago, and you were kind of the show. Let me put it that way. You were the show. But I will say one thing about you, and you are a true collector. And that's one thing I am too, because the bottom line for us is to really, I'm not here to make money on my collection and sell it. And for many, many years, I'll tell you, Caesar, for probably when I first started, I didn't want to sell anything at all, and I kept everything, and I kept trying to keep stuff, but it ended to a point that, you had to. So that's what I see in you, that you're the collector that if I had the room that you have and the stuff that you have like that, I would have a room like that. And I had not as much as you, but I had most of my stuff like that in binders and a few boxes and you know stuff like that. So you just I loved your channel, and I'm just glad that we got to hook up.
Yeah, and thanks for the compliments. Yeah, like every year I have to fill up a tote and export some cards into the garage, to make room in my card room. But my daughter's she's been trying to move out, but it's so hard in California. And especially
Yeah,
because she has a dog, they have a Doberman Pinscher, and that's like on some kind of list where they don't take them. So she's been trying to rent a house or something, and it's been hard. But her room is a lot bigger. This is like a little office. It's like 10 by 10.
okay,
So hopefully, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but there's gonna be another room available in my house
yeah,
if that
yeah,
happens. But my collection has grown exponentially, especially through YouTube. I was one of those people that, like John Mangini always says, "Oh, I collected in obscurity." You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah,
I didn't talk to any other collectors. I didn't know anybody else. All my friends that I had were into other things. I didn't really have any collector friends, so it's kind of a thing I did on my own.
yeah,
So when you're like that, your collection doesn't grow as much. But then once you have, all of a sudden, you have, a couple hundred friends on YouTube that collect. Yeah, you get a lot more pumped up into it, definitely for sure. I
yeah,
believe.
yeah. No, and the beauty of YouTube is just watching the collections grow. I mean, just watching you put together your collection year after year after year, and all that stuff that you pick up, and it's good. I just clicked on the chat, so I want to say hello to Will, W Vogs, and Boom Slang, and Sooner D, and Eric Forley for all in the chat here with us. Uh, Caesar, I don't, I'm not good at technology, but I just click it on to see what's going on. I don't know if I can answer back.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure you can, but yeah, man, go ahead. I always feel bad because I don't. A lot of times I don't pay too much attention to the
Yeah,
comments, and even when I try to, I'll go
yeah.
by with 10, 15 minutes. Like, oh man, I haven't read any of the chat.
No, I just wanted to kind of say hello to the guys there. Those are the guys that kind of follow me and follow you and all that stuff. So, but you know, it, collecting thing, and we talked a little bit about how similar we are as far as our collecting, and not just our collecting, but how we got here really to this country. I mean, I got here when I was 4 years old, and you told me you got here when you were 4 years old.
Yeah,
So that's a cool thing. You came from Mexico, I came from Cuba, but we both came here for more opportunities in a better place, better country, to live in. And
Yeah, I came when I was 4 years old, and I remember my first day that my mom was taking me to kindergarten. I've always gone by Cesar, and she tells me, "Okay, when you get to school, they're gonna call you Julio." And I was like, "Why? I'm Caesar." She's like, "Oh, Julio's your first name. My name is Julio Cesar." So
yeah.
like, I was like, "Oh, what? Like, what's going on?" But me myself, it wasn't until about towards the end of the second grade, where the teachers like found out that I speak English and can read English. So I was in Spanish. I was in the Spanish class in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, like only Spanish. Because that 70s card is asking
Yeah.
if this is an SAP
Yeah.
available for this.
Sí, señor. Podemos hablar español si tú quieres.
And it was kind of fun. The other day when I was talking to you, we had a couple of sentences in Spanish. There's not too
Yeah.
many people I could do that with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here in South Florida, because I grew up pretty much in South Florida. And, well, let me put it this way. No, in the beginning, when we first got here, we were one of the first families that came. We got here in late 1960. And when we got here, I mean, it was like a total shock because when we left Cuba, we weren't able to bring anything we had. I mean, basically came with the clothes on our backs. They took all of our stuff out, at the Cuban airport. They took all our luggage and all that stuff. I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but technically that was it. My mom's wedding rings, all the stuff, everything that we had,
Oh
pictures,
wow.
everything. Yeah, I just got one picture of when I was a baby, and that was one that my grandma was able to mail out somehow. But other than that, I don't know much about. I remember very, very, very little when I was that age. So, but when I got here to this country, it was pretty tough because they put you in a school, and we were the first one, so we didn't have really like a class designated for that. I mean, South Florida was pretty um, white, you know, basically is what it was. A lot of
Mhm.
farms, farmers and stuff. It was, there's a city here called Homestead. I mean, basically that's what it was. And when we got here, we didn't have anywhere really to go. So they stuck us in a class, and there were maybe like five Latin guys or Latin people in the whole school at that time. And they tried to put us all in the same class and all that stuff. But it was interesting times. I mean, yeah, there was some, a little bit of racism just because the language,
Yeah.
basically. That's what it was all about. But but I lived in the Northwest area, and kind of the Latins hung out more with the blacks because
Yeah.
for some reason well, we were poor because when we got here, we at first we lived in a house. It was a 3-bedroom house, and there was 3 families in there. I mean, it was basically my family, my grandparents, my mom and dad, and us 3 kids, which were one room, and then another cousin that was there with us. So it was kind of pretty rough in the beginning, and but everything, works out for the best. My mom and dad both worked, and thank God they're pretty well educated. And I remember my dad every single night. He worked at the shoe department at a it was, I don't even know, they don't exist anymore, called Zayre's department store. And I actually got my first job there when I was 15. But my dad worked there, and in the selling shoes. My dad was a banker. I mean, my dad, he passed away recently, but my dad had you know master's degree and all that stuff, finance. He was vice president of the Bank of Havana. So
Oh
that'll
wow.
tell you how he, we were pretty, but we had ties to the government there because my dad knew a lot of the government people. And then when Fidel came in, my dad had to get out, or you're going to jail with the rest of the guys that were there. So it was a rough situation. And what I was saying is, I remember my dad at night, and again, I hung out with my friends and collected cards. So that's what I would do at night, just look at my cards by myself in the room with my 2 sisters. And I could hear my dad in the room next door listening to cassette tapes, you know, of learning English, repite,
Yeah.
you know, you know,
Yeah, that's kind
I'm
of.
I'm going home, repite, I'm going home, and every night he'd come home from work. He had actually 2 jobs. And then after he came home from Zares, he would put the tapes on and he would fall asleep, and I would listen to those things through the wall. So
Yeah.
it was kind of cool,
That
when you
that
think
that
about it in
that
those days.
yeah, that's one thing, right? When we were kids, it's there's such a disconnect now because with technology it separates us. But like you're saying, me growing up, whatever my dad was listening to on the radio, I was listening to on the radio. Whatever he
Yeah.
was watching on TV, that's what I watched on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, really, Caesar, in those days, there was only one TV in the house
Yeah.
and there were three channels. And that's basically pretty much you had to watch what you had to watch. I was lucky, like, was able to watch some baseball on Saturdays, but a lot of times I had to go to my friend's house, which was even better because they had cards, and that's how I got into it,
My
with
my
with my friends.
I mean my family is pretty much a baseball family.
Yeah,
My dad played baseball. So even here when we were in California when I was young, he played in a independent Mexican league. So every Saturday and Sunday, and then he played softball during the week with his team from work. So I was always at a baseball field, So I pretty much came up in a baseball family. So that's
yeah,
one thing too that my dad was always watching sports. So
yeah,
I was always watching sports.
yeah,
So that's kind of like by default, I guess, why I love baseball so much and I know so much about it is because I grew up on it. Because like I was saying earlier, whatever my dad was watching, I
yeah,
was watching. He was always watching football. He was always watching baseball. So that's where. And our neighborhoods were kind of different. It's kind of fun to hear that. Like me, where when we came over here to the United States, I lived in some apartments. Man, I think everybody there was Mexican. Like I always grew up around Mexicans. My city where I grew up
yeah,
in, I remember my high school was like something 96% Mexicans, a couple of Asians and a couple of blacks. But I've always grew up around pretty much all Mexicans. So I didn't have that, like
yeah,
how you were saying, you grew up, very few Cubans. Like
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
grew up,
Because the
I grew up knowing very few white people or, other races.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here in South Florida, a lot of the Cubans came was through the Mariel boat lift, and then they just, because Cuba basically at that point they said everybody who wants to leave, leave, and then they emptied the jails, but they got everybody. A bunch of people came, and then is when Miami. That was in the '70s. That's when Miami really became more Latin than Americans at that point. But yeah, I mean, it was, it was, you think back and you know what, it was good times because you weren't really, even though that I didn't get it to spend as much time with my dad during those days because he had two jobs. We really, really enjoyed life more. I didn't really don't remember all this side stuff, problems and
Yeah,
politics
I
and all
don't
that
either.
stuff like that. We didn't watch a lot of the news, that we didn't follow a lot of stuff like that. And it was one of those things that you didn't have internet, you didn't have any of those distractions. So, so that was one of the things that helped me, and yeah, my family was super big into baseball all the way from Cuba. Because since my dad wasn't around, I spent most of the time with my grandfather. And my grandfather in Cuba, he owned a supermarket. They have the small bodega. He owned a
Hmm.
bodega over there, and he sponsored the local team. That they wore his logo and stuff on the uniform, and so we would always. I never went out with him to see those games because I was a baby. I mean, maybe he took me out. I don't remember, but he would tell me stories and stuff like that of people that went through there. And one pitcher that I finally got to meet here was Orlando Pena, because he had my
Hmm.
same name, and he told me, yeah, he pitched for my team, back over there, and it was just one of those things fun stories. And then my grandfather was the one that took me to watch the games here, because here we did have spring training. And in Miami, the Orioles used to play here at the Miami Stadium, old Miami Stadium. And in Fort Lauderdale, which is about half hour, 45-minute drive from my house where I lived, you could go see the Yankees play.
Hmm.
So my grandfather was the one that actually went and took me to the games, and we got to see a lot of spring training games. And and of course, I played little league when I was little, because in that same block where I lived, there were a family of four boys, and the father was the little league coach. So even though wasn't that good, because I love baseball, but I didn't get to play much, with my dad or even my grandfather. When I went out there to these guys and I got with them, I was able to play with them. Four boys. I was the fifth one. I snuck in and we started playing. They put me on the team, and I was on the little league team, and that's when I had probably the most fun, because there is when I started really getting the most into cards, because these boys were collecting cards from they had cards already from the 60s, so they had cards from the mid 60s, and I started finally around, I think my first pack I opened was 1968. So I opened 68 and 69. I was a young kid. I was
How much was
in
a pack
elementary
back then?
school still. At the beginning, they were 5 cents and then 10 cents. I think in
Wow.
1970, 71 or 72, they went up to 10 cents a pack. So it was, and what I would do is I would go to the, hey, Warren, I see Warren's on there, and the vintage sports cards. And of course, John is there. Thank you, my friend. So, I would I would do different things to try to get money to buy cards. I would wash the cars first. My dad, anytime I would, Dad, can I wash your car? Get a couple bucks here, and I'd cut the lawn, and then after a while, I just kind of, got hooked, and, I started cutting lawns for other people, so in my bicycle, I'd tie my lawnmower in the back with a string and go down the street couple blocks here and there, and I had my little route. I had about 3 lawns that I used to cut in about a 2-3 block area, and I'd get that money. And I remember going in, and when I really started buying a lot of packs was 1970, and I remember going to the corner drugstore that was. I went to elementary school, Kensington Elementary School, and right on the corner there was a little drugstore called Budget Drugs. And it was kind of on my way home. So I would pass by there and pick up a pack or two. Because, in those days, they'd give you some money for lunch. And whatever you didn't use, I always tried to save up a little bit, even if it was 10 cents, that'd get me a pack, And then on the way home, I'd pick up a pack, and open it up on the way home, chew the gum, and that kind of stuff. And then when I had enough money to get a box, and I mean, you didn't even need $5 for that to get a box of that back in
Yeah.
those days. So I'd get a box, and then I'd take it home, and I'd open it up, and just my
Yeah.
sisters
See,
would come and attack the gum. Give me the gum. I want some gum and all that stuff. And
I,
it was just this fun time, man. Sort them and put them in
I
order.
don't
That's how I
I don't
started.
remember. I don't remember how much the packs used to cost in the early '80s. I remember by the time I was in junior high, and I was on the lunch program, so my lunch was like a quarter. Like I had to take a quarter, and I'd get like a full lunch. That kids with money had to pay a couple dollars for, but I would get it for a quarter because I'm on the
Yeah.
poor people's program or whatever. But all through junior high and whatever years I went through in high school, I used practically all my lunch money to buy cards. And so I remember that they were 45 cents, I think like in 87, 86.
Yeah.
They were 45 cents because I would get a quarter every day. So I would have to save 2 quarters. So every 2 days I get my 50 cents, go and buy a pack of cards, and I'd get a nickel back. So I remember that much. But when it comes to the early 80s, what I remember about cards, I didn't really start to be I don't know how you would call it, but more of a organized collector, I guess. Like, oh, there's sets. My cousin, it was around 86, 87, where my cousin taught me, like, oh yeah, so all these different designs, they're different years. To me, all cards are just cards. I didn't know that. Oh, these are from 86, these are from 85. And then you get all these 86 together and they have a number. I didn't know all that till he taught me that. But before that, what I do remember is that I had cards that I would buy from packs like in 83, 84. And the way I would get those, how you're saying you went and hustle. Well, when I was a kid still, like, second grade, third grade, my dad, he would drink every weekend with the guys in the apartments. You know, that's one thing. I had a great childhood. I lived in apartments, you know, all the time. So we always had enough kids to play baseball, play football,
Same here, man. We played
play
in the
everything.
streets. There was always kids in the street at all
Yeah,
times, you know.
all the time. So, but when my dad would go drink with his friends, and once he get drunk, me and my brother, and I have a brother who's 1 year younger than me. We all knew like, hey, let's go ask him for money because whenever he was drunk, my dad would just give us money in front of his friends. Like, never said no. So he would give us $1. So $1 for both of us, so 50 cents each. And I remember we would go to the dairy that was real close to us. And that's what I think about sometimes. Like, man, I was like in second grade. My brother was in first grade. And we used to walk, you know, across the street like another block to the dairy. And like back then it wasn't like a problem like it is. And that's pretty young, you know, first and second grade. But I would walk to the dairy and he would get 50 cents. I would get 50 cents. And I'd always buy like a candy and a pack of cards with my 50 cents. So I don't remember how much they were worth because I would buy like gum, Hubba Bubba, like back then, whatever,
Yeah.
or an ice cream, bomb pop, and I could get a pack of cards, you know. But I didn't really collect them back then, but I had them in my toy box, you know. But I don't remember how much they were in the early 80s. But that's what I remember, that with 50 cents, I could buy a candy and cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the blow pops. I always try to get one of those blow pops that you lick them and then they had the gum on the middle. You
Yeah.
know, I like those. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just a fun time because during elementary school when I was young, you know, that's when I really started collecting. My sisters also used to go to school there too, the same school. And my sister's like not even a year difference. She's younger, about I think 11 months younger than me, and then my other sister's like 2 years younger than me. So they're like right there. My mom went like boom, 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 you know.
Mhm.
So I'd always have to kind of hang out and wait. Sometimes they would take longer to get out and stuff. So I'd get out of class, and then I just kind of hang out there. And there were some guys sometimes that had cards, you know, and I'd hang out in the corner there. I told my sisters, I'll wait for you here near the drugstore there in the corner. And we hung out there and we looked at cards, traded cards and stuff. That was really what got me, you know, just excited about it because I love baseball. And really, I didn't collect a lot of other sports except for I did football because football was the only sport we had here in South Florida. We didn't have a baseball team at all. And then we got football in 1966. We got the Dolphins in. And then I was really into the football. So I bought football cards in the early 70s. And I have the 71, 72 set. I still have that. And but the other stuff, you know, I sold most of my stuff and most of my sets and stuff like that. So, hey, Hardball Crazy says, did your brother buy cards too, Caesar? Did your brother buy
No,
cards?
no, my brother did not buy cards. Not at all. Nobody in my family
Yeah,
has ever had any interest in cards. I remember back then nobody had interest in cards, period. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, in my early 20s, I had a lot of different jobs. And, you know, as part of a question and a lot of the applications you fill out, do you have any hobbies? And I'd always put baseball cards. And I don't remember in any interview or HR ever caring about that. Like, oh, you collect cards, cool. Like nobody said anything about it. Now everybody's like, oh, what's the most, you know, everybody knows about it. It's a little bit more mainstream.
yeah,
They just think like, oh, if you have old cards, they're worth a lot of money. When you still have your cards since you were a kid, oh, they got to be worth millions. Like, no,
yeah,
no. But 80s cards, like a lot of people see my binders, they're like, oh, that's got to be like thousands of. Like, no,
yeah,
like you know,
yeah,
this 84, 85, $30, $20. And it's not like what they think.
yeah. Well, like I said in the beginning of the interview, you know, me and you are true collectors. So some people don't like to hear that term, true collectors, but I love to use it because that's what we are. You know, we're here to collect. It doesn't matter what the card is worth. If we love the card, we love the card. You know, I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
I, I didn't want to sell one of my cards. You know, I really don't want to, but you know, you have to sometimes. So that's
yeah.
just the way
No, no,
it is. You know,
I
but
can't. I literally I can't wait till I get to that point. You know, I mean, it's probably not going to be like another 10 to 20 years, but there's going to be a point where eventually I want to start chasing the big cards that are getting out of reach. And I'm
yeah,
going to have to sell some of my smaller cards to get it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But right now, I see those cards as I'm probably never going to get it. But there's going to be a point where I'm getting older. Okay, I need to get it. That want is going to start feeling like a need.
Yeah,
I need to get that card, you know.
I know.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to sell. And it's easier now because of modern cards. There's so many modern cards that, like, let's say every card in the 80s, every card in the 90s, I really cared about every single one of them. But now modern is so different now that you have so many parallels and variations.
It's
As long as I have the base
crazy.
card, I think I could give up those variations that are worth so much. I could probably sell those, and I could see myself selling those in the future that other people care more about than I do, you know?
But really, you know what it is, Caesar? I think it's just there's always what they call the chase cards, you know. And you that have been into the hobby like me long time ago, you know, there's always cards that people are going after every single time. I mean, you know, cards like, you know, this, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a huge card. Now you can pick it up for pennies. You know, I the way I look at it is, you know, everybody will pick up this, you know, and I don't have the Trout rookie card. I'm not looking to pick up the Trout rookie card,
No,
but I'll pick it up. I'll pick it up.
I mean, yeah,
When it goes way down, when it goes way down, that almost everyone who wants one has one, because there's so many of them out there still. I mean, you can pick them up.
yeah.
You know, one of the things that I learned over the long term was that you know, I just want to say hello. Lou Rock is there, so thanks, Lou, and thanks, Darren. Return to Collecting is there, and no, I'm not going to sell my Mayo Cup plug cards. So I had to answer the chat. So, but really, I think that time will tell what the real cards are going to be that people really are going to desire in the future. We don't know that today. You don't know which cards are going to be valuable 10 years from now. You know,
Well, I mean,
you really don't.
did you follow football to a little point, like in the early '90s and stuff like that?
I followed football early in the 70s and 80s mostly, and in the 90s too. But mainly it
Like,
was you know, the years of when Miami was the undefeated in the 70s. I went to those games. I was there at those games. I saw those games. I have programs with autographs in those games. I showed them in my video.
mm,
I followed them, and then when Marino was there, I went to the games when Marino was there. I went to the playoff games. Marino, I followed Marino all the
my
way
favorite
through.
football player.
You know, oh man, my favorite for sure. So a big football fan and a big baseball fan, and that's basically what I collect. You know.
Well, you know, because it's crazy. Like, let's just say when I was a kid, I used to have the Wizard of Oz. Remember Brian Bosworth?
Yeah.
Like, say, picture him if either you put him in today's card market or put all the flippers and investors back into the early 90s, like, say, him, everybody would have been crazy over it. His card would be worth thousands right now.
Yeah.
His cards
Yeah.
would be worth thousands.
Yeah.
His hype, he was such a hype player. Who's going to be the greatest thing ever? And then, boom, fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah. Here's another one.
Yeah, I love that one.
A classic card. But let me tell you, when these cards, when it was out there, when they were selling this score set, this was not the number one card in the set. There were other cards that were more desirable. There were rookies and all that stuff. But at the end of 3 or 4 or 5 years after that, you know, after all the hype died down and those rookies in that set went down, the one that remained was Bo. That became the top card in the set. So
yeah, Bo's another guy.
I mean,
his market would have gone crazy in today's market.
Yeah.
Even I don't like to use that term, like, market. That's one thing I was gonna say too, is about the term true collector. I don't mind when people call me a true collector, but I don't like to call myself a true collector because you know, I watch so much baseball stuff, and when it comes to people like that are flippers and investors, for whatever reason, you hear them say a lot that they hate true collectors. That true collectors think they're the shit, and you know that they think they're so high and mighty. So that kind of stops me from calling myself a true collector. You know what I mean? It's like, oh well, I don't think I fit that true collector like you're saying. Like I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I just because I don't sell cards doesn't mean I hate people that sell cards or like I'm gonna bash you if you sell cards. It's just not my thing, And but it will be eventually. But we're all collectors. Everybody has a
Yeah.
niche, and one of the things I would recommend is to try to stay away from channels or type of collectors that you don't necessarily like, girls. Because YouTube lately has just been
Yeah.
getting filled with rants and complaining
Yeah.
about PSA and complaining about this. It's like, dude, just show me your card. We don't. You stay away from that stuff that's making you
Yeah.
bitter inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Dodger Town said that his father and mother worked for Zayers also. And then Darren said that why do flippers and investors sell too? Collectors. I mean, great
Mhm.
comment over there. But you know what? Look, bottom line, and you get haters all the time and all kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll show some cards and people say, "Oh man, you're showing off" or whatever. The bottom line is, look, I'm I'm an old guy. I'm an old collector. I don't give a shit what people say.
Yeah,
Okay,
you shouldn't.
I do what I want, and that's the bottom line. It's my channel. You like it or you don't like it. I'm gonna show what I want. I'm gonna do what I want. You know what? I'm retired. I'm living the good life right now, enjoying my hobby. I'm showing everybody the process of what I'm going through to continue my consolidation and my selling of my stuff. And eventually, uh, you know, you're going to see at the end. I'm hoping to maybe have like 100 cards total, but they're going to be kick-ass cards, and that's what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
I still have so much stuff that I need to really go out there and sell, because there's stuff I want to go after, but I can't afford it. Like everybody. I'm on a retiree, uh, you know, ex-salesman, and I have to sell my stuff. So for me, it was good, Caesar, because when I made my move from Tampa about 20 years ago, I was forced to start selling stuff because I
Mhm.
had to kind of move all my stuff. And man, you know, your family doesn't realize and wife doesn't realize how much stuff you got until you got to move it. Then when you
Yeah.
do the move and you say the movers can't touch my stuff, I got to move it myself. And man, it was a lot of stuff. So I had to consolidate my stuff and sell some stuff, and that's why
Yeah.
first I started. I had all my stuff like had it all in binders, right? First you got all the stuff like that, and I still keep stuff in binders, like stuff that I can't, like this stuff, these old basketball, which are the tall boys. They're tough to store, so I keep those still in the binders. So first thing to do to kind of hide your collection some is you put them in the boxes. Takes up less space. So you put
Mhm.
them in the boxes and you put them on the. This is the that's the 78, my 78 set. So I'll put them in the binders, put them in the box. I mean, put them in the boxes and just kind of takes up a lot of
Oh,
space. But the bottom line is when I got to the new house, I had to start putting some stuff
yeah.
out there to
Boom.
sell. So I did that.
Well, you've seen Boom Slang's room, right? Now he's got a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Wait
I
till
mean,
he ever has to make a move.
yeah, it's crazy because I mean I moved about 5 years ago. I was finally able to buy a house, and so when I moved here, I took extra day off of work before we rented the U-Haul stuff, and then just in my car, moved all my stuff by myself. My wife still went to work that day, everybody else, but by myself, I took a whole day just to move my baseball card.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, it took me like 5 trips in my regular car, to move all my stuff.
yeah,
And it's not only that; it's like they're pretty heavy. I don't know if people realize how heavy these
yeah.
are.
They're heavy.
You
They're
can't
heavy as hell.
exactly carry like a case of these, like 20 of these. They're heavy.
No.
So I'm taking like, two or
Yeah,
three of these at a time in my hands into my room. So it takes a lot of time
yeah,
going back and forth, back and forth.
yeah. No, and in the binders they're even heavier because you got the binder and then you got the pages to add to the weight. So
Yeah.
I had to rent a little truck to get my stuff. It was a lot of stuff. But it's it's great. I mean, this hobby is just so much fun. And the good thing about, when I made that move is, I went through my whole collection again. You know,
Yeah.
don't you feel like sometimes you have all your stuff put there and you have it right behind you, but you really don't go through those binders much, or some of them you haven't gone through probably in years. And that's what happened to me. So it gave me the big opportunity to go back and look at my collection. And that was
Well,
really the first time that I went and started kind of refocusing and analyzing my stuff, because I went back through the stuff and I said, what am I going to do with it, or keep? That's how I kind of started. And then, now, before I started YouTube again, when I had to retire because my dad and stuff about 5 years ago, is when I really went through I really got to make a focus even more on what I want and what I'm going to do with my stuff. And then I went back and redo it. And I'm still going through and just kind of, moving on with some
yeah,
stuff
that
that
that's
it's
why I
not
tell
the
people.
best stuff I need.
That's why I encourage people to do VRs. You know what I mean? Because if you run out of ideas of what to do for videos, if you're at a stalemate, do a VR. There's always, and that's also something that helps me go through my stuff, looking for cards all the
Yeah.
time for VRs. So that
Yeah.
keeps me always digging through my stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I gotta say there was this one group right now that are pretty big now, but at the time they made a podcast, and their podcast is pretty big now, I guess, whatever. But when they started, and they went to Burbank Sports Cards, and they did the tour there in their video, and they asked the owner of Burbank, like, "Hey, what's your PC?" And he didn't really have one, so he's, "Oh, but I got these 9 cards of just guys with funny names and stuff." And both the guys that were doing that podcast, they were like, "Right, yeah." It's like, I don't believe you could have a PC of more than 70 cards. There's no way that you can enjoy more than 70 cards. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, that was just crazy talk to me. It's like, man,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
70 is nothing. You know what I
70
mean?
is nothing. And I mean, I'm trying to get even, to 100, and forget it. It's impossible. I mean, I started grading a bunch of cards and stuff just to, eventually start selling some of those. Because really, the only time I'm going to look at what's a card worth is when I'm going to sell it, and that way you got to grade it. And also grading some stuff so that in case something happens, my family knows, hey, this is the good stuff, the stuff I've graded. But for the most part, my stuff is all raw, and that's kind of how I collect. I collect the raw, and then I go ahead and I'll grade it, and to keep it in my permanent collection so I can display it, and that may be a card I'm going to keep forever or not. But really, I enjoy going back to my collection and looking at it, and it gets to a point that you can't look at it all the time, and there's cards that really you know just jump out at you. I mean, this set or this card, there when I got to a point where I had to sell a lot of my stuff in my sets, but there were some sets that I would never sell because I just love them. The 62 tops is my favorite, and I'm not going to sell that set. I'm keeping that set. The 59 tops, I love that set, little circles, and I kept that set, and I'm never going to sell those sets because just those are just these. I just love these 59s, and it's got a lot of subsets and stuff. So I'm going to keep a few sets. What I decided to do is I'm going to keep a set from the 50s, a set from the 60s, and my favorite set from the 70s, which I haven't decided yet on the 70s because I love the 71 and the 75. I'm probably not going to sell those. But the rest of them, eventually, I'm going to sell them off, get some of the cards graded and sell them off, and try to pick up some of the cards that I like from the pre-war era, and just enjoy some of that history that I like to look at. So I like to pick up, some really like a Ty Cobb card. I have one, but I like to pick up another Ty Cobb. I like to pick up, a Christy Mathewson card. I don't have, much from him.
Mhm.
I don't have any Christy Mathewson from like T206. So some stuff like that. Pick up a card from those type of players. I like to pick up a Cy Young card. I don't have Cy Young because those are the guys that kind of are the history of baseball, and
Yeah.
they
The
tie
four, the
baseball
what would you
together.
call that? Like the forefathers, or
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much?
yeah, yeah. Well, I like the way I like to call is I like to call the ones from the 1800s. I I mean I don't know what I call them in my videos, whatever. I call them the pioneers. I call
Hmm.
them the pioneers of baseball. The guys that started it all, like the first Cap Anson, the first one to get to 3,000 hits, and all of those guys back to Harry Wright, the Wright brothers, because those are the guys that
Yeah.
actually had the first team and stuff like that. So, there's some I'll never get, but you know, I like to. My goal, I guess, in the future is to have a couple of cards of those Hall of Famers to follow the whole history of baseball from the 1800s all the way through now. You know, so. But the cards now, I'm in no rush. Those cards will be available forever. And there's millions of them. So I'm trying to go back and get some of the ones. Like I said,
Well, yeah.
the 1900s. I got pretty much. I went back to 1800, so I'm pretty much set with that. I think I got everything I want as far as the stars type things. So I'm going to work on some of the early 1900s, and luckily I was able to pick up. My first goal was to get a Babe Ruth card. So and to get that. Well, my first goal was to get me the 52 tops mantle. That
Yeah.
was my goal from a kid because I remember from a kid, every single book, that baseball card book that you would look at, it had the 52 mantle. I mean, that was that was what everybody was going for. So
Yeah.
that was my dream for when I started, collecting cards
Yeah.
forever.
That's what
And
that's kind of like one of the things that I repeat a lot when when I talk about my dream cards. I was like, the dream cards that I had as a kid was because I was. It's just like any other type of media. Is whatever I saw on the cover of Beckett, whatever I saw on the cover of the Price Guys, the cards that I just kept seeing. Those are the one I wanted. The 52 tops, the 56 tops, Mickey Mantle. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. What I just kept seeing. That's what stuck in my head. You get brainwashed, I guess, as a kid. But like, say something like Mickey Mantle. I have like a few of his books, and so every year for a while, I would fly to a convention, for the groundskeepers kind of things, and I would buy a Mickey Mantle book that I haven't read, take it with me. So I read all these Mickey Mantle books, and
yeah,
they're interesting. His life was
it was
so
awesome.
interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I genuinely fell in love with this dude's life, his
yeah.
demeanor and stuff like that. So a lot of people think when you say, "Oh, who's your favorite baseball player?" and say like I say Mickey Mantle, well, do you think he's like? I don't necessarily think he is the greatest baseball player ever. I'm just enamored with his whole life,
Right.
the way he treated people, the way how humble he was, his beginnings.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he also had his problems, but that made for an interesting story. You
yeah.
know?
No, for sure, for sure. Victor DeGros says that Beckett was an influencer. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah, it was.
that's what we went. We didn't have any other way. It was Beckett. It was CCP, which was another um, current current card prices was another one. So there was a
Yeah, you
few
had these
guys that
baseball cards. This was
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that. Of course, you had the big yearly book. I mean, I used to get the big almanac, the yearly one, and just go through all of that. And I was just a big fan of all that. And
Yeah,
it's
so
it's
like for people who don't know, like say when you get a regular price guy like these from the 80s or 90s, whatever, they normally show the prices of the best cards. But every year,
stuff.
I don't remember the name of that book, but it would come out thick and it would have every single card. And
Right,
I always got
right.
that. But it would have, if the set was 792, it would show you 792 cards. So that was kind of like my
Yeah,
checklist.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and going back to Mantle because you and I are both Mantle fans. His story is really the most important part of him, not just what he did, on the field, but he was just his dad taught him to be a switch hitter,
Yeah.
and his dad would force him to bat left-handed and throw him, and really his dad made him the player that he was. And his father was a huge baseball fan. You know, he named him after Mickey Cochran, you know, old catcher. So it was one of those things for me
And
just
yeah,
to.
and the funny story is that that wasn't even Mickey Cochran's real name.
No, it wasn't. It was his nickname. You know,
That
but
was his nickname. So Man always says, "Oh, I'm glad he didn't know his real name."
yeah, yeah. But a great book for everybody in the chat is My Favorite Summer, written by Mickey Mantle, and it talks about the 1956 season, and that's probably my favorite book of the Mick, and it's one of the ones that it's because yeah, exactly, because he wrote that book, and the you know the good thing about him is that he was just like a regular guy, you know what I mean? He'd go out to the bars, he'd talk to everybody, he signed everybody, anybody wanted an autograph, he signed autographs, he's always smiling. Of course, he was a drinker and all that stuff, but you know what? A lot of people drank in those days. I mean, you know, uh,
Well,
they
that's the
drank and
thing.
drugs the whole, that was the time,
Well,
you know?
that's also a thing where if you read about him, it's kind of like he got sucked into that New York lifestyle because those weren't his humble beginnings.
No.
When he always says like he couldn't understand his fame, like he couldn't understand why people thought he was a god and he worshiped. He's
Right.
like I'm just a normal guy. He would
From a
always say
small
like,
little town, you know? It's
yeah,
like, what is this, you know? But you know, he was just a very humble guy, and one of the things that people don't realize that the reason that he got hurt originally in the 1951 World Series was to allow DiMaggio to catch that fly ball. You know, he could have caught that ball. He could have run and caught it. He
yeah.
actually he was going to catch the ball, but because he was so respectful to DiMaggio, you know, and right at the end, DiMaggio called the ball, so he pulled back and he got his foot stuck in that sprinkler
See,
hole. You know.
that's the thing, the difference between like the press, the media back then and now, because a lot of people will say like the feeling back then was that the media, the press, kind of like thought Joe DiMaggio was shoddy for calling it so late because he didn't call it early enough. He's like, that kid wouldn't have got hurt if he would have just called it earlier, but he called it like at the last minute. You know what I mean? But stuff like that would never get out back then. They protected,
Right.
they
They
protected
protected
Joe DiMaggio,
DiMaggio.
they protected the players.
DiMaggio was the king back in those days with Marilyn Monroe, all that stuff. I mean, he was the man. Hey,
Yeah.
Hammer, and Jason are there. So thanks, Jason. Great channel. I'm glad you started it. And Hammer 44 has the best videos I think on YouTube, and the one that he did with that Clemente card, I voted that the best YouTube video of the year for 2023. That's my vote. If you haven't
So,
seen it, check it out.
so Orlando, did you ever research or anything about how I told you about I wanted to make a video about Mickey Mantle's legendary the longest home run ever hit?
Well, I mean, I've read about it and everything and all that. You know how they actually tried to get a tape measure and all that stuff, but I don't. You know, what are you planning? What are you doing? What are you planning on
Well,
doing on that?
no, okay, because I'm trying. I talked with Signs of the Pastime Hugo, and I told him, hey man, I want to make this video, but okay, let me get you a card real quick that I just bought so I could also help out with this video. I'll be
Yeah,
just
yeah. I know Hugo. Maybe I can. If it's something in Florida, Hugo and I can get together. You know, it's a few hours away from me. But I think you're going to show. Oh man, I have it somewhere. That home run.
okay. All right. Yeah. So
Oh, I thought you were going to show one of the home run of this.
no, it's none of those. Well, that's the thing. It was a legend, and then eventually it got proven otherwise. All right. But so in 1951, uh, the Yankees had spring training in Arizona. They used to always have it in New York, but I think they let the New York Mets take their place over there, and they came to Arizona. And so they were doing some barnstorming in California that year. So they went and they had a game against the college USC team in 1951. So they played a baseball game, the New York Yankees Major League team versus the USC baseball
College.
college team. All right. So they played a game, and so they had Mickey Mantle. This is 1951, before he ever played a major league game, and so they were trying him out because Casey Stengel was grooming him to take DiMaggio's spot pretty soon. But he was planning on just sending him back to the minors. And also, he was really good friends with the USC coach Rod Dado, and the Yankees were thinking about hiring Dado to put on the Yankees coaching staff. So there was a couple of things that made this game possible. So the legend has it, that day against USC, Mickey Mantle, everybody there was there to see Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra, all the Yankee greats in 1951. But the guy who impressed everybody was Mickey Mantle. In that game, he hit a single, a triple, and 2 home runs. And then the legend began from one of his home runs, because he hit it way, way, way out there into the towards the football field. So after a while, someone went to go look for the ball on the football field, and it was nowhere to be found. And so he went past the football field, and there's a church across the street, and the ball was in the grass at the church. All right. So I've been waiting to make this video, but the church has been under construction for like a whole year. So that's why I asked Hugo. Hey,
I
Hugo.
heard about that. That was like the 700 foot home run or something like that. He hit like
It was
700
it
feet.
was the ball where they measured, where they found it, was 660 feet.
Yeah.
So, but I was telling you, hey, I want to make this video. I go, but the church is under construction and it has all this scaffold. I go, should I just wait till for presentability, the church is done? And he's like, yeah, but it's been like a year now and it's still under construction.
You should do the video. I mean, if they allow you to sneak on there without having to get a hard hat or something.
So, anyways, so they found the ball 660 feet away. So that was for a couple of years. Everybody believed Mickey Mantle hit this ball 660 feet. So that's why he ended up staying with. He didn't go back to the minors. They ended up keep putting him on in 1951 because everybody was so impressed with him. And then somebody wanted to make a documentary or write about that 660-foot home run that he hit. And so they went on the football field, and so they were looking around to talk about it, and they ran into this guy. I don't know if you know who this guy is.
Frank Gifford?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
I showed an autographed Frank Gifford card today in my video.
Okay, so he's a Hall of Famer. He was on the 51 USC football team.
Okay.
And so he saw the people out there that they were investigating, and then they asked him if he knew anything about if he heard about this home run. He's like, oh yeah, that ball landed right in front of me. He's like, that ball landed right in front of me. I've never seen a ball hit so far from the baseball field. That's never happened before. That ball landed on the football field. He's like, that thing had to go like right. It landed, and he told them where it landed, and he said, yeah. So, but we were having practice. So I picked up the ball and threw it over the fence. So he threw it to the church.
Farther, yeah.
Yeah, he threw it farther. So that's where the legend was at, that he hit it 660 feet. But so he kind of put an end to that and kind of corrected the story. But that's the whole thing, is that they measured where the ball landed, where Frank Gifford told them it landed, and it was like 550 feet. Okay. But then everybody dismissed, but nobody cared, because they thought it was 660 feet at first. Now all of a sudden they weren't impressed with a 550-foot homer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and they said he hit even farther home runs in the majors too.
Oh yeah, but a lot of people are saying like, oh yeah, well he hit it against a college kid. Well, Mickey Mantle was 19 years old at that time.
Exactly.
He's the same age as the college team, if not younger.
He was young. I mean, he didn't play that long in the minors. He was straight. They took him straight to the majors right away, And you got a couple guys, the bargain boxer. What's up, guys? On there, and you got Mookie Chilson's been on there in the chat. So,
and I don't know if
A hobbyist is there too.
If
I
Boom
forget his name.
Slang is still on here, but
Boom
Boom
Slang
Slang,
still.
if you're still on here, he was asking me about a design I was asking him about. So I want to make a shirt with the 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle, but with him wearing Mickey ears. So I could wear to
That's
Disneyland.
right. I remember you. You wanted that done.
Yeah.
You
So
may need to talk
basically,
to may need to talk to Scott at Reindeer Studios. He could probably hook you up with something like that for sure.
yeah. So I basically either, I mean, it could be either the 51 Bowman or the 52 tops. 52 tops is probably easier since it's a bigger headshot. But I
Yeah,
want a picture of him wearing Mickey ears, from his
yeah.
hat.
He can do it. I think the 51 is kind of your card. That's the one that you've done before. So I think go with that and just add the Mickey ears on that. That'll look good. And Boomslang bought a whole bunch of boxes full of stuff. He's been going through all the stuff that he bought. He bought like tons of 5,000 count boxes of stuff. I used to do that before. I used to go to the all the yard sales. Back then, you didn't have Facebook Marketplace or any of those places like that, so you just have to go to a yard sale. And since I worked for like a newspaper, I would run. They allow you to run like one ad a week. So I'd put buying baseball cards, and then I'd get some calls from there, or I'd go to a yard sale and come back with boxes and stuff like that. And then that's why I started doing stuff as a part-time card dealer. I would do like the mall shows. It was super cheap. You get a little table out there and just put them out there and sell cards and buy cards. And a lot of my collection, I actually got Caesar from the card shows, people that came and sold me stuff at the shows. And, that's really where I got a lot of my really nice stuff there, where I know where they came from. I know that I'm like, a lot of times the person actually pulled the cards from the packs. My 62 set was a guy that actually, an older guy that, well, it was a long time ago, but pulled the cards from the set, from the packs, put them together in the set, and sold me the whole thing with a bunch of doubles. It was almost a complete set. And when you look at the checklist, he had checked off all the cards. You could see that I still have the checklist that he checked them off. So, that's kind of how I built a lot of my collection that way. So I like to see where a lot of guys go out there and buy stuff, and even this sports card collector, investor, dealer in that order. That's how he built his uh, business and his YouTube channel, by buying the stuff, showing what he buys, his collections, and moving them and all that stuff. And he's built an incredible collection. Also, he did have a 52 tops mantle one time. I think he sold it though.
Yeah, I think it was a consignment or something, but he took
Yeah,
advantage and took a picture with his baby
with the baby. Yeah,
while it was in
yeah,
his hands.
yeah. But one of the things, Caesar, is I was watching a live stream yesterday, I think it was, and somebody was saying, oh, it was Craig from Midlife Crisis. He was saying something like, well, it's a dream car that I'll never have, and I always said that too about, not just the Mantle, but many other cards that I'll never have that card. I'll never have that card. And, you know, I never got those cards until I really got more positive and told myself, I'm going to get those cards. I'm going to go after those cards, and that's why I respect, those back pages, where he went out there and really said, I'm going to get those cards. I'm going to go after that card that I really, really want. And, never say never, never say never,
Yeah.
and that's the way I look at things. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go after what I want, and whatever I got to give up, if it's something that I can give up, that I know that I could always get it back again in the future, I'm okay with that, because I really, really wanted it. I can get it again, you know. And like the Sandy Koufax rookie card, I was able to pick that up last month. I could have picked that up anytime, a few years ago, but I kept my focus on what I really wanted, and then I was able to, at a trade, pick that up, you know. So that's kind of what I look at, kind of focus. And Egg is on there, and funny thing, Egg, uh, we were talking about you. you want to talk a little bit about that, Caesar? But
Yeah, I was,
all great
yeah,
things, because we were talking about the best YouTubers out there. You were one of them, my friend.
because I was asking Orlando, like, how long has he been watching YouTube? And he's been watching for a long time. He's like, oh, so you watched Egg when he first started? I said, oh, yeah, me and Egg, you know. So we brought you up in all in a good way.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm glad that I got to meet him and stuff. So, but yeah, we brought up a lot of old YouTubers, because Caesar's been doing this for such a long time, and he is really, to me, one of the founding fathers here of the YouTube and YouTube Hall of Fame. I mean, I think everybody who first goes onto YouTube and looks up, cards or baseball cards is going to run into Caesar, you know. And once you see his videos, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, now thank you're pretty tame now, Caesar. Let me tell you, you've gotten tame from some of the older stuff that I've seen you do in the past. I mean,
Well, too,
you've gotten a little older.
no, it's not so much that. There's a lot of things that go into it. I think that combine to do that have to that has some kind of effect on that. Is one of the things is as at my old house when I first started making YouTube, I had this big backyard and really wasn't very close with any of my neighbors. So I could get loud, I could be crazy, and I had all my costumes in my baseball card room. You know what I mean? So every time I could video, I would change costumes, and everything was on the fly. But I could be loud in my house. My kids were at school. You know what I mean? Now my daughter, she's out of school. She works at night, so she's here during the day. I can't put on a chicken costume and run around screaming with my daughter here. Like things like that. So those are the kind of things that factor in. You know what I mean? Little things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I really just love the way that let me say hello to Troy's in the house. We got Sexton's in the house, and a lot of good guys in here watching us, and the hobbyist and Victor Negron, of course. But you know, one of the things that talking about YouTube, when I decided to go onto YouTube at first, I really didn't know what what I was going to encounter. I mean, it's kind of scary in the beginning. I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and first of all, I'm going to show my collection, which my I did it to document my stuff because people didn't know what I had, and I had to really share that with the rest of my family. But really, it was one of those things: is do I really want to do this? What am I doing? But it just got to a point that I was watching everybody, and I started just commenting a little bit here, back and forth. And once you start doing it, because the first couple of months I didn't even comment, I didn't do anything. I almost just wanted to do nothing. I didn't really know. And as soon as I started commenting, I realized that people in this community want to help you, and they're
Yeah,
all great, great people, and it's just, I'm just going to encourage everybody, just get started, no matter what. I'm really a shy person. I don't even show my face on my videos because I don't know, I'm just not comfortable still with that yet, maybe one day. But I think everybody needs to, step out of your comfort zone and do some of these things. And you're going to see that the community is here to help you. And it's so much more fun collecting with other guys and other people that just by yourself or just looking at videos and stuff like that. You know, once you start, you know, connecting with people and yeah, collect to connect, that's the key.
yeah,
That's what makes this hobby. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in 50 plus years of collecting cards today, right
for
now,
sure.
than I've had ever, in my collecting life. And it's really because of the people in YouTube. And the people in YouTube, I mean, I really got to know a lot of them, and really a lot of them personally. I haven't had a chance to know you personally, even though we've talked, Caesar, but I got to tell you, there are some of the best. I'm not talking collectors. I'm talking people. I mean, you
Mhm.
have from police officer, emergency people. You have firemen. You have veterans, and and service people and people that are really the people that help this country. And that's what's so inspirational. I mean, I've met some people that are like I can't even express.
Yeah.
There are people in this hobby that cannot show their face and cannot say who they actually are. And it's
Yeah,
because
there's not a
they're protecting our country. That's why they're doing
yeah,
it. And I
I
can't
don't
tell you
think
who or what,
baseball
but
card baseball card collecting has a type. They come from all walks of life. But when it comes to
yeah,
card collecting. And one of the things too is like, man, I watched Victor Negron, say Lou Rock, you when I first started on YouTube, there was a lot of Cuban guys, Bronx Bomber, Cuban card collector. There was a lot of Cuban. And I remember one of the things I always had in the back of my head is like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, because all the Cuban guys, they had Cuban PC collections.
yeah,
All the Puerto Rican guys had Puerto Rican guy collections. I've never really been a Mexican player, PC collector. I always thought, well, the day that one YouTuber comes out with my white guy PC, I'm gonna
yeah,
start my Mexican PC.
yeah. One of my favorite players, Cuban players, unfortunately passed away. I don't know if you remember Jose Fernandez.
Oh yeah, man, that was sad.
That guy was dominating, man. When he pitched, they're going to win the game. And he's a guy that you could not take him out. He was going to pitch 9 innings no matter what, you know. And unfortunately, that was, no, talking about Cuban players, I just wanted to show a Cuban player there. So what's up, Will Voggs? Got Troy on there. Got a bunch of guys. I met Will. Went to a card show with Will, and also went to a card shop before that to another visit with Will. Good people in the hobby, and you got just so many people. You're saying about the Cuban collectors here. Um, yeah, there's a lot, especially in South Florida, since there's probably half of the Cuban population is in South Florida. Uh, there's Fast Breaks and Breakfast, my buddy right there, talking about Cuban collectors.
Yeah, me and
And
him got to get together, man. He doesn't live that far from me. Me and him, we got to do a break over breakfast soon.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of Cuban collectors here. But one thing that I've noticed, and one thing that is really great about YouTube, is that you find out about collectors that are not on YouTube, but have
Mhm.
some collections that are super impressive collections. And I've met a few people here in South Florida that I never even would have met. That if you think that my collection or my Cuban collection is good, man, these guys will just blow me away. And they're not going to be on YouTube. They don't want to be on YouTube, but they'll watch my videos and they'll, text me and stuff like that. And one day I hope to show some of those collections. But there are so many guys that I've been able to meet and not meet personally, but talk to, that have incredible collections, and they're on YouTube, but they're not,
Yeah.
like Mike Petty. You see Mike Petty. He's not in the
Mhm.
chat
Yeah.
right now, but Mike Petty is in all the chats. He's in California, by the way. Mike Petty has an incredible collection. I mean, he texted me the other day his 1951 mantle, Bowman mantle, in a 5, and he's
Oof.
got a 51 Mays, I think, in a 4.5. And I'm like, Petty, you got to show those cards, man. You got to get on YouTube. No, I don't even know, but he's an old guy, and he has yeah, he says he when he gets his iPhone, he'll do that. But he got his iPhone already, so I'm going to keep pushing him. But I like to see that kind of stuff, and one of the
See,
things that I
but
like,
I can't fault people because I was the same way, and I think you were the same way. I mean, I watched YouTube for a couple of years before I made my first video.
there's Petty, in the chat. Yeah, you're just an average collection. Yeah, right.
You might be an
uh,
average collector, but with the most amazing collection, so that makes you an
yeah,
amazing collector.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but you know what? Here's another guy. He's just a hardworking guy, a hardworking guy and just one of those dedicated collectors. A lot of these people here don't have, we're not millionaires here, and stuff like that. I don't know about Mangini now with the cards he's got, but other than that, we're just regular guys. I think Mangini was watching the Steelers, and I don't know if they lost, but they were not doing good.
Yeah, they were not doing good at all.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, my dad's from Texas, so I was raised a Cowboys fan, and they got blown out of the water. Oh well,
yeah,
I don't take it as hard as I used to when I was younger.
yeah,
When I was younger, things like that were devastating. Now I learned to like, oh, that's part of the game, or I can predict
yeah,
the game. Like, oh, I don't think we're gonna do very good. my
yeah,
my hopes aren't as high.
yeah. Oh, Steelers did lose. Vintage Sports Shack just said that, but yeah, I was spoiled because when I first started watching football, it was the Dolphins, and it was in the late '60s, early '70s when the Dolphins were just the best team in football, undefeated and all that.
Mhm.
So I was spoiled, and then we got Dan Marino, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna continue this streak going. We got Marino, and then they goes to the playoff, and it never happened. And from then on, it's just been disappointment. It had been 20 years since the Dolphins were in the playoff. They make the playoff and they get booted out.
Did you
Sucks.
just see what Fast Breaks posted that he burned a Romo jersey?
Wow,
What?
man, that's crazy. That's crazy, my friend.
You you you
Hey,
burned your
Jake, what's
Romo
up, my friend?
jersey?
Oh,
What is going
there
on?
it is. Oh man, look at Jake. Yeah,
At
man,
least
it's
you got my Emmitt Smith one too. Oh man, that
yeah. Let me
um
see some comments over here. Yeah, Jason. See, here's Jason Janega. Jason started as a commenter, and now Jason started his channel, and he's got a great channel. So check him out. But that's the fun of the hobby, man. It's just really getting together with people. I would have never have met these guys if I wouldn't have gone. If I would have been on YouTube, I would have never met. I would have probably still been collecting by myself in quiet, private, watching YouTube, watching you. And but again, I came on to tell you were one of my inspirations. Watching you out there, I said, hell,
yeah,
if
I
Caesar
got
could do it,
lucky.
I can do it. Come on, guys, if
I
Caesar could
got
do it.
lucky that I was one of those people too that I don't know. My like my first whole persona wasn't like something that I invented. It's things I took. Like the whole before, I used to always wear a wrestling mask. And when I first started, I used to always wear a wrestling mask. But that's something that I used to do on Instagram. I was there was this what are they called? Masked collectors? No, masked golfers of Instagram. All right. That somehow I ran across an Instagram channel. And these guys were like Japanese millionaires who own golf courses in Japan. And they would golf in wrestling masks. And so I followed him for a long time, and I said, hey, if I wear a wrestling mask at the golf course, can I join your club? And they're like, okay, yeah, we don't have anybody from the United States. So that's how that started with me getting all these wrestling masks. So I had like
Wow,
10 wrestling masks that I would go golfing with all the time, golfing
that's
wrestling
awesome.
masks, and post them on Instagram. And I was like friends with these millionaires on Instagram. It was kind of fun. So when I started my YouTube channel, every once in a while I would put one on and people are like, hey, that's fun when you do that. Keep doing that. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And so things like at the end of my videos, now I always go, all right.
I know.
That was kind of a thing that I didn't even realize that I was doing. But then one video I didn't do it and I got a bunch of comments. Hey, you didn't make your fart noise at the end. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that at the end of every video. So now it's like, I do it all the time, so yeah, it's a combination of a lot of people who like encourage me to do this, do that, and that became a Pepino persona, and
yeah.
it helped me, it helped me out.
I love it. I mean, we love it. At the end of your video, I always have to watch it all the way to the end because sometimes you end the video and then you come back again and say, oh,
Yeah,
and then you say something else and you come back again, edit another thing, you come back again. Sometimes you come back 2 or 3 times, to at the end, and you got to watch you always until the end. So that's a nice stuff that you do there. And I always like that. For the most part, your videos are unedited. I mean, you'll put those little clips at the end, but pretty much it's
Yeah.
just you.
Well,
You know, what you
I
see is what
don't
you get,
edit.
and I love
I
that.
don't
Oh,
edit
you
any of
don't?
my videos. I don't edit any of my videos. All I do is press the pause button. So there's not something like I add on later. It's just I press the pause,
Oh,
and
okay.
sometimes I think I'm ending the video, and I just get up and I see something. Oh, and then I'll grab it and hey, real quick, boom, just add that in. Then I'll put that away. I'll see something else, grab that. Hey, boom, add it in.
Oh,
So
I
it's
gotta.
all
You know what?
spontaneous.
I should do that. I should pause and
Yeah,
move a
that
little bit
that
and do something else.
that
Yeah.
I call that my Mexican editing. So you could do your Cuban editing. All
That.
you do is
Yeah.
press
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I mean? Then
exactly
press
what.
it again and do something real quick. Press pause, and it looks like you're
Exactly.
editing a bunch of stuff in there.
That's what I thought. I thought, oh man, look at him. He's editing. I'm impressed because I don't know, but now I'm going to hit the pause every once in a while. Learn something new today. Good, good, good. But yeah, Mike Petty was saying he remembers you with the Mil Mascaras mask. I mean, Mascaras mask. Yeah, but it's just it really is fun. I just kind of, like I said, put play and just start talking about. A lot of times what I'll do is if I'm gonna talk about someone, and I pretty much I've already read up on that person that I'm going to talk about. I'll just get a little bit like some stuff. I'll read a few things from like their page, Wikipedia page and stuff. But most of the time, it's just me talking, just me chatting away at what just talking about the player, talking about the car, talking about stuff, because it's just I'm not here really to try to impress or something. I'm just here just to talk about the cars and the players and what I know about it. After so many years of collecting, just it gives me an opportunity to kind of just share my thoughts, and that's one of the things about that I love about the hobby and about YouTube. That it's just for me, it's the first time I'm able to sit down with you and talk cards because like I said, all my life I've never really been able to do that. Since I was a little kid, and because when I got to junior high, I still collected through there, and then when I got to high school, I still bought packs and stuff and still build my sets, but I really didn't tell anybody that I collected at that time. And then as soon as I got out of high school, got to college, that's when I stopped for a little while, and after that I ended up getting married and stuff. But that
Yeah,
was a tough. I went through a real tough time because I was going through college, and I had a really really bad car accident, um, where I had a little VW bug, back in those days and stuff. And then um, I used to go. I worked, you know, in those days you had to do what you had to do. So I was working. I was going to college at night, and then one night my classes ended around 10 o'clock, and I was heading home, and I was hit by a drunk driver. The guy hit
mm,
me right on the side, right over here on the side, and my car was totally crushed, and I was smashed into. I don't know. I don't remember. I was totally gone, unconscious. To me, I literally I died that day. I mean, I literally that's what happened to me. And the only thing I remember was that I was well. They told me I was dragged out of the car, and I woke up in the ambulance, and they were all over me and treating me and all that stuff, and you know, had teeth knocked out, I had big scars, and my arm was almost cut up, and it was one of those things that they told me later that they pulled me out through the passenger side window because somebody had to smash and pull me through there because the the driver's side were all the way into the transmission there, and it threw me
mm.
across the other side, and it was one of those things that I truly believe that I was really I was dead. I don't
Fortunate.
remember anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they dragged me to a gas station. My car, I saw pictures of my car was up against a light post, smashed up against a light post, and they took me to the gas station there. Apparently, they tried to treat me there until the paramedics got there, and then Bottom line, I was in the hospital for like a month, and
Oh,
it was I still got scars and stuff and all that. My arm's got a big scar all the way across it. You can
oh,
see
wow.
that. I lost like a chopped off a part of the muscle and shit like that, and then a bunch of it was one of those things. But you know, um, saved me that day. And one thing you guys see me on my all one thing I always have around my neck is this chain, Jesus Christ chain.
Hmm.
My grandmother gave me this thing when I was 10 years old, and she told me one day, uh, don't ever take this off because someone's looking out over you, and you just believe that you're going to be safe and you're going to be fine and all that. About 3 years after she gave me this, my grandma passed away. I've never taken this off, and I had this when I was in that accident, and I believe that Jesus Christ saved me that day. And when I was taken to the hospital, that's the only time that I've ever taken this Jesus Christ chain off. I've had it on my entire life, everywhere I go, and that's one of the things. Because some people have asked me why I wear that chain. But the bottom line is that you know uh, life is short, and I learned a
Yeah,
big
it
lesson
well,
in that day, and I turned my life around, and I felt that I was just going to just be the best person that I possibly can be, and that's one of those things that from then on I hung around with the right group, the right
yeah,
crowd, and
exactly,
I
right?
was getting in trouble some and stuff like that. I mean, I did get in trouble when I was a kid, and everybody does, and but eventually, I went the right way, and one of the things that helped me the most, Caesar, was collecting cards.
Yeah,
Collecting
it's a
cards for
distraction.
me,
It's
it's such a distraction, and it's one of those things that when you're doing that, you forget about all your problems in the world. And I keep talking about that because to me, that's my sister does yoga. This is my yoga. My yoga is
yeah,
my meditation, is my
your
cards,
therapy.
my therapy. And one of the reasons that I feel that I I'm young and I feel young still is because I avoid a lot of the stress, because I made a point every day once I had a stressful day from work, and even when I was going to college, I'd spend half an hour with my cards, and that kind of was my relaxing time. And to me, as being a collector for 50 years, it is the biggest therapy for me that I
Yeah,
have. And I had a stressful job because I was in sales, Caesar. I was a door-to-door salesperson, literally. I had to go door to door, and 98% of the time it was a no, or a hell no, or get the hell off my yard. you know so it was one of those things, and I'd come home, and I remember the first day that I had that job, and I made 75 calls, 75 doors that I knocked to and talked to, and I didn't make one sale. Only one person was interested, and I came home, and I just started sorting cards. I sort
yeah,
my cards, and it just relaxed my whole self. And from then on, that's why the hobby has been to me. And I said that's why I always say I collect by myself, because I am by myself when I'm doing those things, and that's what I do. And
yeah.
even though
I
my
can,
family,
yeah,
when they were younger, they did go to, my wife and kids went to the card shows with me, especially when it was at the malls. They would love to do those. They'd go there all the time. And, and my son a lot of times would fall asleep under the dealer table. I'd bring a little pillow for him and sleep under the dealer table as I was at the show. But so I involved the family. But, after so long, they kind of, go away. It's like your son and daughter, they probably, in the beginning, they were kind of interested, but then they kind of get away from it, the collecting part
yeah.
of it.
They got into well, I think they were interested for a while, and then when what was that video game called? What's it called? The Guitar Hero came out and Band Hero on PlayStation. They fell into that world hard, and so
Yeah.
my daughter got in a band. She was a singer in a band. My son got into a band. He was the bass player in the band. So I bought a drum set. I have a drum set. I had bought two guitars. I bought them a bass guitar. I bought my daughter mics and bongos. They would have band practices at my house and stuff. So they went into that. But I don't have an accident story like you. Mine is a little different, but we all have that turning point in life. And one of my turning points in life is one time when I got pulled over and I went to the county for a week. I had 8 warrants.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I had 8 warrants, and it's not like criminal warrants. They were all for no registration and no driver's license. But I was one of those people that I will get pulled over with no registration on my car, no driver's license, and the cops will just give me a ticket and let me go. But it eventually happened 8 times. So I had 8 warrants on me. And so I went to the county for a week, going to court every day to different cities, taking care of all my tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy,
And
man.
so the first judge, like, dude, I was literally gonna get like, it was estimated that I was gonna have to pay like $35,000 in fine.
What?
Yeah,
Damn.
exactly, right? That was my reaction. By the time I got to the last city and the last judge, everybody started giving me time served, time served, time served. So I basically got out of there and had to pay like, I don't know, $80 instead of the 35, and I was like, this is a sign from God. Like, thank you, God. Like, I got to change my life. I can't go through this again. Like,
No, yeah.
this is a sign. And so when I got out of the county and I went to a store, I got this. Look at this. I got this $2 bill.
Oh,
And
cool.
this was
Look at
like
that.
brand new when I got it. This was like brand new when I got it. It's a $2 bill. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, and this became my lucky charm for, I don't know how long it's been already, 25 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
whatever it was. So I consider this my good luck bill. And I
Yeah.
remember, and so, but it's this bill in particular. Like the day
Right.
I said, okay,
Right.
I'm going to keep this bill with me and I'm going to stay out of trouble. I'm not going to do this to my family anymore. And I did a video like, I don't know how long ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And it was like a VR, something about lucky charms or like, something
Yeah.
that you have. And I showed that $2 bill. I said, this is my lucky $2 bill. And like, and I kind of shared the story. And then
Yeah.
like the next week, I literally got like, I don't know, between 10 to 15 $2 bills
Oh,
that
that's
people send
cool.
me like, hey, you need to replace your $2 bill, and so like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
It's this one. This one cannot be replaced. You know what I mean? So I still have a drawer full of all the $2
Two
bills that
dollar
people
bills of
send
what
me.
people send you. That is so
Yeah.
cool, man.
But I tell them, I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, it has
Yeah.
to be this
It
one.
has it has to be that one. No, no, it's funny how things are that way, It's one of those things, but you know what it is, Caesar, that if you really believe that it is lucky, for some reason, luck will come to you, man.
Yeah.
I believe in that stuff, man. I believe if you think positively, good things will happen to you. And I always believed, and my family always taught me that if you do good things for people, they'll do good things for you.
Yeah.
Don't ask for favors, but favors will come to you if you just do it for others. And that's kind of, you know, and they've been talking about they said you need to get that bill graded, but you know, you were talking about. I'm losing my train of thought here. Look, watching the chat, it's always good stuff with Petty saying he wants Mo, Larry, and Curly cards. But I lost my train of thought. But I was going to say about the sales. The way I learned my big lesson and going back to the sales was that and I was not a vacuum cleaner salesman going to the house and trying to throw dirt on the thing and clean the dirt. My sales was selling advertising to small businesses. And that was even tougher because advertising to small business is like a bad word. They're like, advertising. No, I got to pay the rent. I got to pay the
Yeah.
electricity, I got to pay my employees, and they see advertising as an expense. It's just more thing. And am I going to get anything from it? Well, no, I can't guarantee you're going to get customers from it. So it was one of those. It was
Yeah.
a tough sale, you know. But what I learned from that, Caesar, is that when you talk to the business owners, and one thing that I like to do is just sit down and talk to them and ask them. And one of the things I ask them is about their business and what they want from their business and their future of their business. And then I start asking them about, for me, it was more to learn because, as a salesman, you want to learn about their business. And I'm calling from like a restaurant to a cleaning company to a maid to every type of business you can imagine. I even had a card store that advertised with me, but I had, from Home Depot, big businesses to small businesses. And what I find is after you talk to the managers and stuff, they will always tell you, you know, what they want out of their business, what their plan is, and what they want, and who their customers are, and why they buy their products, and where their customers come from. They always say, no, no, you go to little grocery stores, no, no, my customers are right here. There are all
Yeah.
these people right in this little area here. Or you let's say you go to a place that is leasing apartments. No, well, the people that lease apartments are from that area. So as you know, I'll tell you, it was the Penny Saver magazine, which
Yeah.
the Penny Saver in California, right?
Yeah.
So
I mentioned that before. That's where I used to
yeah,
buy a lot of my cards from back in the days
exactly.
during the penny
I,
saver.
man, I ran an ad in there every single week to get people to call me to buy cars and go to yard sales. But so as I would talk to these business owners, what it taught me was that if I could help them grow their business, essentially, if I can help them get customers, those people are going to continue to spend money with me because that was the bottom line. So, as I found out about who their customers were, I was able to target, and with that paper, we were able to target and put their ad in specific zip codes where the people more likely to come to their business are
Yeah.
going to come. And it was a small amount of money because it's better than advertising with the LA Times, which costs a fortune. You know what I mean? So you're only going to advertise to this 10,000 homes right here in this immediate area. So as I explained to them what I would do for them, first they told me, then I told them, hey, I can reach every one of your customers, and let me show you what I'm going to do. But as I helped them, they helped me. And you know what? How I became successful at the end? I had all of little bodegas and little shops in the area would call me and say, "Hey, I saw that you did an ad for Fulano over there, you know, and
Yeah.
he got some new customers, and I was getting calls from different people. Why? Because I was helping them instead of trying to sell them something or push something on them. Hey, you want to buy an ad in the paper? It's going to bring you some new business and customers. And at the end, they didn't get anything. But you know what? When you tell them this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to try to do, I can't promise anything. But if they get one customer that comes in, hey, I saw your ad in
Yeah.
the Penny
It
Saver,
worked.
man, they were like thrilled, man, I got a customer out of that. And then I would tell them, listen, this customer, if you treat them well, they're going to come back and shop at your place every single week. So even though he only spent $10 when he came today, he's going to spend $10 next week and the following week. That customer is worth $520 in your pocket because he's coming back. You know, so that's kind of what I showed people. But the whole theme of that was it showed me that it was to help other people achieve their goals, and that'll help me achieve my sales goals. If they reach and get to where they want, I get to where I want. And I and
Fulano.
I took that as far as where
Yeah.
in my life, I figured, you know what, I want to dedicate my life to that, and that's what Jesus Christ said, and that's what he preached, and he was a simple guy, but he just tried to help people along the way. And I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm nowhere near any of that. But, I think that if you just try to be the best person that you can be, and that's pretty much it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of
Right.
that's kind of how I live my life at this point. I'm gonna be 70 years old in a couple years, and I want to be able to have the best life possible at the end of my life, and this is kind of my goal.
Yeah, right. You want to be well, you also want to look back at your life and like, hey, I did all right. you know.
You do the best you can,
Uh
man. Yeah,
Real
coolest
quick,
bar.
since
He works for the
you're
coolest bar
mentioning the
place.
penny saver, one of the things that I bought from the penny saver, there was all like when I first started buying vintage, I always say from the penny saver when I first heard that baseball cards are coming back in, and before all I knew was the newspaper, you know what I mean, where I could find cards and well besides shows. But then some guy told me like, yeah, you could get them from the penny saver, you could find people sell cards and this and that. So I started looking through the penny saver because I could get them at the 7-Eleven. You know what I mean? At the
Right.
7-Eleven, there I had a
Yeah.
rack in the front. I would get them
Yeah.
from there, and I go through them. So like my 55 Bowman Eddie Matthews card that I had. There's a bunch of cards that I bought from the penny saver, and during that same time, I had just started working at a golf course, and my boss told me because I started putting the pins in, like the cups, and I was just putting them all over the place. I wasn't putting them properly. He's like, you got to learn how to play golf because
You got
you're
to be a
putting them in
golfer.
places where they're too hard to make them.
Yeah,
And so
placement
I
is
was
the
like,
key.
okay.
Right.
So I went out trying to put I ended up putting a Frankenstein set of clubs together, but I wanted a good driver. Everybody was always talking about you need a good driver. So from the penny saver, I bought a driver, and I met this guy in Long Beach, and the driver had these flames painted on. I still have it. It has these flames on it, like really badass custom. And this is like 25 years ago. And the guy, when he wasn't famous yet, he got famous after a while. But his name was Jesse James. He was the guy
Wow.
that ended up
Yeah.
marrying Sandra Bullock and all them.
Yeah.
And when I met him at a Taco Bell in Long Beach, and he was selling me that club, and he started telling me, yeah, I do custom motorcycles and custom cars. He's
Wow.
and every time I make myself whatever custom motorcycle I'm driving, I make my clubs. I customize them so they match my motorcycle. But I just sold this motorcycle with these flames, so I don't need this club
He doesn't
anymore.
need the club with the
And
flames. Yeah.
I got it for him. But back then he wasn't that famous. And then like a few years later, it's like he had his own TV show, and I was like, hey, that's the guy I bought my club from the penny saver. Met him at a Taco Bell in Long Beach.
No, and from the penny saver, I met O.J. Simpson.
Oh, really?
All that stuff after he moved to L.A. and the trial and all that, and he was innocent. He moved to South Florida, and he came to the shop where we had all the penny savers, because here in Florida we wouldn't put them out at the 7-Elevens. We just mailed them to the stores.
Yeah.
So he came in with this big bodyguard. He's coming in kind of limpy a little bit, with this huge guy, probably was his bodyguard, I would imagine. Comes in, and the ladies at the front wouldn't recognize him right away, of course. And they called me. I was upstairs, and I was the manager at that time, and they called me down and says, OJ's over here. We're not going to do anything. We were scared of him. We don't even want to talk to him. So I ran down there and I talked to OJ, and he told me the whole story. He had just moved. He was renting a house. He needed to buy some outdoor furniture for the pool area. So he wanted to get different penny savers from the different areas so he can kind of buy some of that stuff there. And but yeah, I was able to get his autograph there on my business card, and I shook his hand, and some of the girls there didn't talk to me for a few days.
My boss at USC, he grew up a big USC fan and a big OJ Simpson fan. And every year he talks to the higher ups and tries to convince them to let him put a 32-yard line in honor of OJ.
Oh, wow.
And of course, they always shut him down.
Never.
It's never going to happen.
That's great. Caesar, have you ever had anybody that you actually collected cards with? Friends and stuff there where you are? That's
one of the things. Let's say when I was in Little League, a lot of the kids collecting in Little League, but everybody had like a shoebox, basically. But nobody put sets together, like I said before that. And by the time I was in high school, I think that's kind of how like I got so much closer to building my 88, my 89, my 90 sets. That's how I was able to complete them.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends that I knew from Little League, once we were into high school, they got into gangs. And once they got into gangs, they were like, I don't need my baseball cards. I'm going to throw, hey, well, let me have them. And I think that's how I was able to get closer to building a lot of my sets. I started getting boxes of cards from people who lost
Yeah.
interest in them. But
Yeah.
no,
That
not
happened to me.
really. I had one friend in high school. Um, he was a big Nolan Ryan, like I almost want to say a prospector back there. He used to always tell me Nolan Ryan's going to be like the biggest thing. His cards are going to be worth a lot of money. So every Nolan Ryan that I ever had came across, I traded it to him for something else. And that's why I don't have a Nolan Ryan PC because I basically gave him all my Nolan Ryan cards. But
Wow.
no, not really. Not really. Even to this day, I don't have anybody that I grew up with basically like that collected cards and I
Yeah.
could go to their house and we, have card days or whatever.
Yeah. The same with me. Once I got out of high school and stuff, I really didn't have anybody else. Even though later on I did connect with a friend of mine that back in the days he did have some cards, but I haven't talked to him probably in about 20 years. But so yeah, it was just kind of collecting. But you know what? One of those things that when you do collect by yourself, you're kind of a little more focused and you don't get distracted. And that's really why I did a lot of the set collecting, because that was kind of the one of those things that you do by yourself.
Yeah.
You sit there when you go to card shows, you sit there by the box or by the binder and looking at trying to fill your sets. And a lot of times that's one of the things that I would go to card shows, but I never talked to anybody. Because I would just sit there, just trying to fill my sets. And once I started not collecting sets, it was a little bit different, because you're kind of looking all over all the cases and all the stuff and all that. But overall, really it was, I don't know. Things have changed so much now. You see a lot of the kids with the Pelican cases and stuff, and I go to these shows and I see them all there. And I'm hoping and praying that some of these younger kids go back to the set collecting type days, and not maybe not set collecting, but collecting.
Well,
And
I'll tell you one of the things that amazed me that I found really amazing because the last the last national that I went to, we were having our party on a Friday at this bar, and then right outside the bar and all the hallways and the lobbies, you know, there was all these young kids selling cards. And one thing that I found out just going to all these kids with their Pelican cases, just selling their stuff, they knew so much about the card
right,
itself, but
yeah,
like they almost knew nothing about the players.
right. That's exactly my point, and that's one of the things that when I talk about my cards on my videos, I want to talk about the players. And you're exactly right. A lot of the people, the young guys nowadays, they're following all these quarterback and this quarterback, but how many are actually really looking at, watching the game, watching the quarterbacks,
Yeah.
really following the stats, learning about this guy? Who is he? Where did he come from? Those type of things. And that's one of the things I think is that's why I don't see those people as collectors. I see those people as flippers, even they're young kids. And I think, they were talking the other day about how is Fanatics going to 10x the hobby. They're not going to do it by strictly doing box breaking and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because the person who's going to buy those cards at the end is going to be the collector. And if you're not having as many collectors now coming into the hobby today, true collectors, versus breakers and flippers, then you're going to have a big problem, in the future. So, what I like to do is, sometimes if I'll see a kid there and stuff, and I'll have extra money. I've given a kid at the show $10, but I told the kid, listen, with that $10 I'm giving you, you got to go through the dollar boxes and spend the money in the
Yeah.
dollar boxes, not go and buy a pack for $10. You go to the dollar boxes or the quarter boxes, 50-cent boxes, and pick out 10 cards that you're going to like out of there. Because that way you're going to look at different cards that you maybe never seen. You may run into a vintage card, I mean, you never know. And, I've kind of reached out to some of the YouTubers out there that are kind of out of our circle, you know, just to
Hmm.
see, because really a lot of them do not talk to the collector type like me and you, Caesar, that are, I see us as ones that not looking to sell cards. That's not where our purpose is.
Hmm.
Our purpose is to collect cards we love. So I've reached out to some of them, like the sports card dad, Dustin, and even some of these new guys, Justin Gamble. I reached out to him, and he basically said, "Oh, I'm just not into vintage." And I said, "Well, why aren't you into vintage?" "Well, I don't even know about vintage. I don't know anything about vintage." So I said, "Are you interested?" "No, I'm not even interested in looking at vintage cards." So that's kind of the responses that you get from some of
Yeah.
these guys, because they're not really into it. I think they're just into it for more of the it's in style. It's what's hot.
Yeah.
It's what's
What's
flipping
profitable
and
right now?
profitable, and it's like it's what's in. It's the latest lotto or the latest fantasy football. It's let's throw some money out there and see what we got. And I think that is going to be a downfall in the hobby, because if you look at things like what things cost. Look, I got this card for $40. Price of a blaster. That is Bob Waterfield, Hall of Fame quarterback. You know, I picked up this card for $60. Johnny Mize.
Ooh, nice.
Beautiful 49 leaf in great condition. The price of a little box. I mean, I would like, to see more of that instead of spending that $50 for that blaster box. Get yourself a one card. Look at some vintage card. Find a nice one you like. Learn about the player. Learn about the card, man. Because once you open that blaster box and you pull out literally nothing, you
Yeah.
know, or a numbered card that is going to be in the dollar box in 3 or 4 years. I mean, you don't have anything to show for it, and then you're going to
Yeah.
get down on the hobby because you're going to end up with a whole box full of common players that you spend a ton of money on and that you're never going to look at again. And then all of a sudden you're looking at, what am I going to do with all this boxes of junky common cards that I don't really
Yeah.
don't want?
I'm gonna close my door real quick because
Yeah, man.
I was home alone. Now everybody's getting home. But yeah, man, that's very interesting. Like how many people now that collect? Well, do they collect, or are they just flippers and investors that don't watch the game? All they do is watch the stats. They
Yeah.
don't watch the games themselves. You know. So I mean, but I mean, it's just the way it is. We're not going to be able to change that. I don't, so I don't even try. I'm not an ambassador or
No.
trying to give advice. I just try to show you what I have and what I do. And that's
Yeah,
all I can do.
exactly.
And
Yeah, I
hopefully,
mean,
hopefully get kids interested in it, and you know. But I'm not going to preach to anybody. You know.
no, I mean, I just wanted to kind of reach out and if they wanted to share my opinion. But really, nothing happened. I mean, and when you leave some comments in some of those channels, which I do sometimes, they do tend to get a little bit, nasty sometimes,
Yeah,
because
they get defensive. That's exactly
yeah,
what I was
yeah,
kind of saying earlier. I don't know why these people see it as like us against them. Like,
no, I mean, it's all
like if
one
I
hobby.
say, that's why I was saying like about earlier. Like, I don't mind if people call me a true collector, but I'm not gonna go out there and put it on my videos. Hey, I'm a true collector, because there's so many investor and flipper type people that see that as a bad word. And it's like, I don't know, I
Yeah,
understand how you see that as a bad word.
no, it's crazy. And then when I left a comment for the sports card ad, he commented back and he said that the term true collector turned his stomach. That's what he says. The term true collector turns my stomach. I'm like, what? And
I
I
don't know
tried to
how.
let him know, look, what this is what I mean by a true collector. So a person that is going to buy cards to keep them forever, that person is not good for you, or you don't like a person like that. I mean, that's the ultimate guy that's going to end up buying those cards that you're looking at, that you're selling and that you're pulling out of those packs. That's the guy who's going to buy them. And it's almost like it's two different worlds when we really are one world. And I think we
Yeah.
all need to. So I tried to reach out, try to be a little bit of an ambassador to those other guys out there that do the modern and the flippers and that kind of stuff. And it's just not worth my while at this point. The good thing is that there are some people out there that do reach out, and there's a lot of good people out there. And one that did reach out to me and definitely wants to interview me is Jeremy Lee. I never thought he would
Oh, really?
tell me. Yeah, Jeremy Lee reached out to me, sent me an email and stuff, and he said that he wanted to talk to me, and we got a date set early March. He says can have me on his show, so that's a good thing, because he's also a collector, and he's got a pretty big reach, a good channel, and
Man,
we'll
he's
see
booked till
what
like
happens
early
with that.
March.
Yeah, man, that's what he said.
Wow.
He says, I said, when do you want to talk? And he said, well, let me see my schedule. And then he sent me his schedule. I think it was first week in March. I think it was. I'm like, damn, But those are one of the guys that
See, like
have a lot of
me
sponsors.
personally, like how I was saying is I don't have anything against those channels. You do what you do, whatever. Like some of these people, they might not do what I like, but doesn't mean they're bad people. They're just
No,
they're in a different niche than I am.
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
Do what you do.
Do what you do. I
Jeremy Lee
mean,
was one of those people that there was this group chat that I was in, and they were all like big time Jeremy Lee fans. And I watched a couple of his videos, but he was always interviewing like, investors, flippers, or big ups in the company. So I was like, I kind of lost interest because that's not my thing. I just want to watch collector videos.
yeah,
So I knew who he was. And when we were at the National, a couple of the guys that I was with are like, oh my God, look, that's Jeremy Lee. And I was like, oh, that's that guy you guys are always talking about. Okay, cool, whatever. And so one of the guys, I went over there to go meet him, and then he introduced me to him, and he was like, "Hey, Pepino, man, yeah, I saw you on Hobby Palooza." He's like, "Oh, I like what you do. That's kind of cool." And he wanted to take a picture of me. You know what I mean? I was like, "Wow,
nice. Yeah,
that's kind of cool." You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of one of those things where, like, why I say is like, I don't necessarily interested in exactly what he's doing, but I also don't see him as a bad person in the hobbies. Like you
yeah,
do what you do, and like proven point is like he was really cool with me. I have nothing bad to say about the guy.
yeah. No,
You know
I
what
got
I
to
mean?
tell you, all of these guys, and I've, in the last two nationals, I've been able to really spend some time with a lot of these people. I mean, I actually spent about 15 minutes with Jeff Wilson and his son. And
Hmm.
when I was at the national, they were at the snack bar there, and they had just gotten something to eat, and I had just done that too. So I sat down next to them right there on the floor, and I started talking to Jeff Wilson, and I talked to him about the vintage, and I actually showed Jeff Wilson some of the cards that I had there. I had just gotten my Cap Anson card, and I showed him that and all that stuff, and and he actually started telling me that he had bought at that time he had bought a Babe Ruth, a 33 Goudey Babe Ruth, and he pulled that out. And this was like not this one, the one before that. And he said, no, I'm getting into vintage, and I'm going to start looking at vintage and this and that. And I'm thinking, man, he's looking into vintage. This was a year and a half ago, but he never said on his videos anything about that he's looking into vintage. He never talked about vintage, never, never, ever, ever, ever. But he told me. And when I ran into that other guy, Tyler Teapot, was the guy Teapot, I ran into him looking at T206 cards. He was there looking at it, and I talked to him there. And he was also looking at T206, and I'm pretty sure that he bought a T206 card there. So it's funny how these guys, you see them at the show and you're looking at certain things, but when you watch their videos or their channel, they never mention anything vintage, So it's kind of, but when you talk to them in person, they're actually really nice
Yo,
guys. And
yeah,
Jamie,
at
he's a
the
nice guy. I talked to AIH, Rahul, nice guy too. All those people are really nice
yeah,
guys when you really look at it. But you know what the problem is? A lot of it, Caesar, is it's a lot of them. It's a business to them.
yeah,
YouTube is a business, so they're going after what's popular, what they think
yeah,
that their people want to see. So they go after that route, versus sometimes putting something out there
yeah.
that they say,
Well,
hey, well, I'm not going to get much views if I put this vintage card out there, and they're probably right.
yeah, that's what like kind of was saying. These people. That's why it says like, just because I don't watch your channel or not, it doesn't mean like, oh, I think you're a bad guy. Like, exactly, like SEI, he's more of a business person, and I understand that. So he's not my type of content, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. I met Jeff Wilson too at the Burbank's card show, and I did a real quick video with him, just like, hey, hey, keep collecting baseball cards forever, and he was cool with it and everything. And when I posted it, uh, I got a few comments like, why would you do a video with him? He's this and he's that. It's like, it was nice
Yeah,
to me, man. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I,
They're all good people. I mean,
yeah,
I've talked to all of them, Mojo and Roth and all those guys. I talked to them, all of them. Actually, Roth was at the last show here for Lauderdale. I got to talk to him a little bit. And you don't see those guys doing much anymore because they're the flipper types. But they're
yeah,
really, really, when you really talk to them, they're good. They're nice people. They seem like really good people, and they're really trying to do the best that they think is good for the hobby. It's not like they're out there saying, oh, flipping is bad. That's just how they enjoy the hobby.
yeah,
When you talk to them, it's like, but I love this. This is what I like, and this is what I do, and this, to me, that's their hobby.
yeah.
So we
So,
we all hobby differently,
yeah,
but we're all one hobby, and it's just one of those things that it'd be good to let open the everybody's eyes to how everybody hobbies, instead of knocking the true collector or knocking the breaker. Let's not do that.
yeah, yeah. Like some people are saying, see, already we got someone, like Jeff
Yeah,
Wilson is too. And, like just getting on the same point is like, that's why I don't watch his content. It's not my thing. You know what I mean? He's
no,
a
his
business
content is
guy.
not my thing. Definitely
It's
not
not
my
my
thing.
thing. I don't watch him. You know what I mean? So if you do watch him, and I'm sure maybe if I watch him all the time, his business side of things might irk me. You know what I mean? And get me angry.
Yeah,
But I don't watch him because it's not my thing. So I don't have this animosity towards him. You know?
exactly. Yeah, it's just not my style. I don't watch a lot of that. I don't watch a lot of the breakers. I don't watch a lot of those flippers. I just don't. I'm not into that,
Yeah,
so
like
I just don't
like
watch
me,
them.
I don't watch break. I know a lot of people who are like addicted to watching breaks, and it's like, I don't know, man. I just rather open my packs myself. I'm just
Yeah,
not into that breaking culture, watching other people open your pack.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And I think that it's going to get even tougher in the future. I mean, look what's happening right now with, it's harder to pull any good hits from any boxes nowadays, and it's going to be crazy. I think the hobby's going right now through the junk wax era, but this is the junk slab era,
Yeah,
plus the junk. It is a junk card era. A lot of the cards you're getting are going to be junk. So it's just it's a good and a tough time for the hobby right now. I'm just hoping that you know we can 10x it by getting more collectors in versus getting more gamblers in.
yeah. I mean, I'm not into that 10xing thing. I don't understand it. I don't know why you'd want to do that.
No, I commented the other day on 10. They're 10xing their profits is what they're going to be
Yeah, that's what
10xing.
they want. That's what they mean.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what they mean. So but I would like to see them do something more. I mean, I'd like to see Jeff Wilson or Jeff Wilson's son, get more into going through dollar boxes. I mean, if you look at somebody like Dr. Beckett, you know what Dr. Beckett does at the card shows? He goes through all the dollar boxes, because he's a
Yeah,
collector, and I'd like to see every time I see kids going through dollar boxes or or things like that. I love that, and I try to do whatever I can to help the kids or whatever in that area. And when I see kids opening packs or boxes, I try to say, man, I wish you the best, but your chances are pretty slim. Just give them
Yeah,
a heads up. Don't expect it, because a lot of times they have high expectations. Oh man, I'm going to buy this pack. I'm going to
yeah.
get a Wembayama rookie card, and
I think
then
it's tough. It's tough for kids to get into the past because they have so much content on the present now. You know what I mean? One of those kids that I was talking to that I was telling you about, like when I came out of the bar to go to the bathroom and the lobby was just full of kids selling cards and stuff with their Pelican cases out. And this kid had a Kobe Bryant rookie, and I was just like, oh wow, like he was selling it for like I think it was like 8,000. This kid's like 12 years old. I was like,
yeah,
you're
no,
really
no,
in
the
the
kid.
hallway here with that much money, like. And so I just started talking. I was like, hey, what's the lowest you'll take on this Kobe Bryant rookie? And he was like, oh, 8,000. I can't go lower than that. It's my dad's card. And I was like, oh yeah. I go, do you take checks? And he was just like, what do you mean? He
They
didn't
don't
get my
even know.
joke.
They don't
And
know
then
what a
I was
check
like,
is anyway.
hey, so like, and I tried to make a conversation about Kobe Bryant, and he'd never seen him play in his life. I was like, well, haven't you watched like a documentary on him or past highlights on him? And like, he hadn't. I was like, dumb things like that. I was like, I'm dumbfounded by that. I was like, but you're over here selling Kobe Bryant cards, but you know
Yeah,
nothing of like it's crazy.
no, you watch
But
them
that's
all the
that's
time.
the
But
that's where
but
the state we're in right now.
yeah, I mean, but if you ask them, what's the last comp on that card?
Yeah.
Boom, they'll tell you. How many home runs did Babe Ruth hit? Huh? Who? What? You know, but they know what the comp is on every one of those cards. But it's funny because you see them opening cards, you see them opening packs, and they're throwing away most of the cards.
Yeah.
Caesar, they're throwing them away. You pass by some of these when they the tables and stuff that they open the boxes, they have a stack of cards they don't even want. It's like, damn, look at these guys, man. I wouldn't throw away one card when I was a kid. I kept every single
Yeah.
card, and kept it in good condition because I don't know, I was just collecting them. I wanted to have, if I had a double, okay, then I'd get rid of it, no matter who it was. But it's just crazy to see now what just kids are. And my concern is, what happens, 2 or 3 or 4 years from now when they have these cards that, the value is just continuing to go down. Is
Yeah.
that
Oh,
going
yeah.
to
Well, I mean,
discourage
just
them and get them out of the hobby completely? I mean, that's really my biggest worry right now of what's happening in this hobby.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, say with football or baseball, a couple years ago, everybody wanted the Mac Jones, rookie cards
Yeah,
and one of ones, and they were asking crazy money for it. Like he was already a Hall of Famer. You had baseball, everybody wanting the Warner Franco, and so you don't know what's gonna happen, guys. Is what they don't understand.
right, right.
They don't understand anything can happen. Like me and you were talking about, like what happened with Bo Jackson. Like,
Yeah,
you couldn't
yeah.
predict that.
Never, never, never. And even some players that you thought would be great, and then they just didn't pan out completely. Look at somebody like I remember a few years ago, Andrew Jones. Andrew
Yeah.
Jones, that he played, and for the first 10 years of his career, oh, he's a Hall of Famer. He was one of the best, defensive players, and he's a Hall of Famer. And then the last 5 years, he was traded. The last 5 years of his career, he went straight down. Andrew Jones today
Okay.
is a common
Well,
card.
that's one of the things. Like people have had contest response videos. Video response, like saying who's the worst player you've watched that you've seen play. And I've a couple of times has said Andrew Jones, and people jump all over me. What are you talking about? He was a great player. I said, yeah, I seen him play for the Dodgers at the end of his career.
He
He
sucked.
sucked. He had no hustle. He didn't care about the game anymore.
Yeah,
He was making bad throws, dropping balls. He was the worst player that I've ever seen in
or
person,
worse.
is what I'm saying. I didn't
Yeah,
say he was the worst player ever. The contest is that you've seen in
right.
person. And
Yeah,
I seen him. totally. I mean, he was getting booed all the time. He was in
Right.
a bad place when he was with us, you know.
Yeah, that's what Mike
And I
Kelly was
seen him in
saying. That
person.
skunk. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was excited. Like, woo, Andrew Jones, yeah, hell yeah, Andrew Jones is badass. And then all of a sudden, he was like a shadow of himself.
A shadow of himself. Exactly, exactly. And that happens so much to so many players, and at the end, you just never know who's going to end up being in the at the Hall of Fame. You just don't really know. And a lot of these guys that people invest in and all that stuff, and at the end, it doesn't work out. So, but I think that overall, Caesar, I think a collector really isn't that concerned about the value of the card, as long as you like the player and you follow the player and you love that player. It doesn't really matter. Look at Mookie Chilson. Mookie Wilson fan. Come on, Mookie Wilson, a great player, great teammate.
Hey, he
He was
got it through. He
incredible.
got it through the legs.
Let me tell you, man, he was. I loved. Everybody loved him. You know, will his cards ever be worth a ton of money? No. But I have his cards. I love them, and those are things that the true collector doesn't matter what it's worth. It doesn't really matter. You look at somebody like Nate Tops 85401 here, and you look at his collection of Barry Bonds. Will Barry Bonds ever be a Hall of Famer? Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe never. But Nate loves Barry Bonds, and he'll spend money on Barry Bonds. He'll collect Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
He's the happiest guy in the world collecting Barry Bonds.
You know,
You know,
like let's say in the 80s, in the early 80s, some of my favorite players are guys who like most people don't even know about today, but in the 80s they were very popular. Say Vince Coleman, Eric
yes,
Davis,
yeah.
like all these great
Daryl
players
Strawberry, Doc Gooden.
that
I mean,
most
come
people
on.
now don't even consider stars, and they were big time stars back then.
Huge stars back in the day. I'm telling you. And it's one of those things that, a collector is always, no matter what is going to collect. I'm trying to look for some of the,
Like Willie
here he is.
Davis,
This
all
is
these guys that were just great.
this is for you, Pepino.
Ah, yeah, the Wally Joyner.
Wally Joyner, man. This guy was huge back in the day. Who didn't want Wally Joyner cards, man? We didn't want Wally Joyner's autograph. I've got Wally Joyner's autograph, 8x10s and everything in there. You
I
know,
got um
but I still have my Wally Joyner cards, and you know why I keep them? Because yeah, yeah, nice. You know why I keep them? Because I remember the memories of going and meeting Wally Joyner and getting his autograph, and seeing that, and they're never going to be worth any money, but that's part of my collection. That's part of my memories. And I think that's one of the things for me is, yeah, I have expensive cards, but I have a lot of cheap shit that I have because it's my stuff that I want. I have a 1970. My 70 set is beautiful. I would say it's probably excellent to mint, right?
uh-huh.
My Pete Rose card from that set, piece of crap. It's creased and all that. But you know what? I won't sell that. And that's going to be my card because I traded that card when I was a kid from my friend. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we had Henry S asking if anybody collected George Foster.
George Foster was great, man. He was a big time hitter. 50 home runs. I mean, back then, when you hit 50 home runs, you were a beast.
Yeah,
Nobody
that was
did
like
that back in those
very
days.
rare.
Yeah, yeah, incredible, man. But it's just I love the hobby, like you say, love the hobby. Keep collecting. It's one of those things that it really is kind of an addiction, but it's a more of a relaxing, enjoyable type of addiction than anything else, versus
Yeah.
some other.
Well, it's a hobby, and when it gets to the point if it's an addiction, then it's a problem.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But no, I mean, it's always, for me, the way that I stay kind of involved in the hobby is always to kind of refocus myself, refocus the hobby some, and do what I can. Uh, my earphones are going here. Let's see. My earphones are going, but so what I try to do for the most part is, refocus my hobby. So now don't I really want? And that kind of helps me, you know, get myself back into the hobby game. And you know, take a look at your collection every couple years and decide, you know, is this exactly what I want, or is this what I'm going to
Yeah.
want 5, 10 years from now?
And it seemed for me like the hobby was unchanged for like 20, 30 years for me. Like it was steady and always the same. If if I had a Mickey Mantle card, it like climbed up like this forever. You know what I mean? It was steady forever. It wasn't until 2020 when everything went haywire and crazy in 2021.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's really the only time it went crazy, but it's always been steady. But so forever, so for 20, 30 years, I think I collected the same. And then the last couple years, I've had changes to my hobby, not because I wanted to change, because I was forced to change because of prices, the way product comes now. Um, I heard, who was it? Boomslang or somebody commented like, now I only buy complete sets. I don't try to build them anymore. And that's kind of where I'm getting to. It makes so much more sense now
yeah,
for me to 2024 to just buy the Topps complete set for 50 bucks at Target later than to spend $1,000 trying to build it because it's so hard now. It's so
yeah.
hard and so expensive to do. I still want to try to hand correlate my 70s and 60 sets when I get to them, but the newer ones, it makes more sense to just buy it for 50 bucks
Yeah,
at Target, you
for
know,
sure.
than
Yeah, I
spend so much
built.
money. And the thing is that I'm not interested in all these hits and all these variations and all these parallels. I could care about them. Whenever I get a lot of parallels and variations, it's like this just took away a common card from me getting closer to my set. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to collect all the inserts. I'm not, I just want the set. So
right.
it's kind of forcing me to change into that with the modern.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no way that you can really complete sets now modern. It's just impossible. You know, I really stopped. I completed all hand collated sets from 1970 through about 92 and some 93 sets because you could still put them together. I mean, the 80s, you could put them together,
Yeah,
no problem, and all that stuff pretty easily. But now it's just impossible. When it got to like the mid 90s, where you started getting all these different sets like the finest and then the refractors and all that stuff, that kind of made it too hard for me, and the prices got more expensive back then, which is what's happening today. You know, the prices are jacking back up too expensive, and it's because a lot all those different inserts and those numbered things. And again, back in those days, they started doing, even in
yeah,
'94, they already had patches in cards upper deck did.
yeah.
So I stopped back then and really never put together any more sets after that. Just would buy the set for the year. That was it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like say the top stadium chrome, the stadium chrome cards, a hobby regular pack. It has 4 cards. It only has 4 cards in there. How are you going to complete a set with the packs costing like 10 bucks each and only four
Yeah.
cards? It's
Yeah.
not worth it. You
No,
got,
I
at some point you got to you got to stop being so set in my ways. Okay, I'm only going to put these sets hand correlated. Okay, that's not going to make sense anymore. You can't be that crazy. Don't be
you just
obsessed with your collection that way and
yeah.
put yourself in financial debt trying to do this. You got to be smart about it at some point.
Yeah, it's unaffordable nowadays to do stuff like that. So, you know, and that's kind of why I'm focusing on specific players that I'm looking for, specific sets, cards that I want for certain sets for certain players, you know. So I'm a little more focused in that. And, you know, it's just one of those things with time. I think everyone looks at their collection and decides, you know, where do I want to go from here? And the older you get, the more you feel like, you know, I can't handle all this stuff
Yeah,
anymore. You know, I have to do something. And before it gets to a point where I gotta dump it, you know, you just have slowly but surely start moving away from some of that stuff. So, you know, I think, you know, everybody's uh, collecting changes. And I think everybody. I'm going through that big change right now. I've been going through it for many years, and it's a fun thing because I'm also learning new stuff as I go through, and I saw some stuff. I'm learning about other cards, like some of the Cuban cards that I really didn't know about too much, and going back to collecting some stuff that kind of go back to my history. Kind of like you going back and getting cards from Mexico. There's a lot of Mexican cards of Hall of Famers.
Mhm.
you know, and it's just something I didn't know anything because I don't remember Cuba. I was too little. But it's one of the things that maybe I can go back and pass on to my kids and stuff like that in the
Yeah,
future. They may,
like
hopefully they'll be interested in some of the history of where
like
we came
I
from
I bought
originally.
this book about like Mexican American leagues in Pomona in my city, and it's just
Nice.
like crazy. Like I had no idea, about all these leagues and stuff that have been happening in my city of Pomona since early on the 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's
That's the
so much
beauty.
to learn.
That's the beauty of this hobby, that you can go in so many different directions, not only in sports but in non-sports. There's so much you can do, and I've seen a lot of people change. One of my friends, Ryan Nolan from Breakout Cards, he's one of the first friends that I met in the hobby. In Atlantic City, we hung out a lot, and he changed. He was more into vintage stuff, 50s and 60s, and he still has some of that stuff, but he sold that and went more into non-sports and things because that's what he enjoyed and what he loved. And I think that's this hobby. The more you learn, and the more he learned, and the more you learn about other different parts of the hobby and the history of cards. I think it enhances your fun in the hobby.
Yeah,
And I want to, even people like Mangini, and John tries to get up the rarest cards, but he texted me this morning that he picked up an extremely rare card that you'll never seen before. And you know what? It is a rare card. He says it's the only one graded by PSA. He'll probably do a video today or whatever tomorrow on it. But he gets so excited about that because he himself is learning every day about new card issues and new players and certain sets. And even though it's a card from the 1920s, it's something that I hadn't seen before, you
hmm
know. And so you learn something every day. You learn something new in this hobby, and hopefully I can share some of the stuff that I've learned over the years and show some cards that people hadn't seen over the years, and just to open other people's eyes. And it may not be what you want. You may not be interested in Cuban cards or Cuban players, but it opened your eyes to maybe look in another direction for your collection and say, hey, you know what? I may want this. If you look at some people like Scott from Stukes, he likes Minnesota Twins players and things like
yeah,
that. That's his focus. That's what he enjoys. And he collects other stuff, exhibits, and he has an incredible collection. But he likes the Twins players and Kirby Puckett and those type of players. And it's so much fun to see that, and people really loving their hobby, loving their cards, and loving, you know, just enjoying it. And to me, that's what it's all about. I don't like to talk about what a card's worth. I like to talk about, how much fun I have owning the card and looking at that card and enjoying the card and knowing what that player has done for the history of that sport. How
yeah,
important that person is. Listen, man, they made a card of this guy. I mean, think about it.
yeah,
Caesar, imagine somebody made a card of you. You did something important, especially back in those days.
yeah.
So,
I mean, when you think about it, what percentage of human beings get a baseball card made?
mhm.
Of them.
uh, no, Boomslang, I don't have a card about Luis Almo. I don't have any of his cards, unfortunately, but I'm always looking for cards of many of these old Cuban players. They're just very difficult to find. So that's one of the things. Also, is the best thing about it is it's not having owning the card. Sometimes it's the journey to get to own the card,
Mm.
or the journey to finish. Like you and Steve Yeltsin. You know, it wasn't that you know
Yeah,
completing the set. It was that Steve Yeltsin card, that last card, the journey of getting there, and then you got it. You made it.
It's like you finish that marathon race. That makes it more fun, and it's the most fun of
Yeah.
anything else, you know. And so, when I talk about my 52 Mantle, it's not what I see is what I went through to get that card, and nobody really sees that except for me. My entire collecting trip or journey to get to that card and finally get to the mountain and get the grail. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
that journey. That's what it's so valuable to me to find that right one. I had opportunities to buy other ones. Hey, at one point back in the 80s, somebody came to me and said, with a 52 Mantle, of course, they weren't graded back then, for $1,000. But I didn't have $1,000 back in the 80s. Come on, bro. $1,000 back then was like, I
Yeah.
was making, I think, $200, 250 a week back then. There's no way I could afford that, and I couldn't get it. But it gets to a point where what what I went through for that, but it was that enticement. One day, I said, one day I will get that, and it's just that journey of going through and collecting all the mantles slowly, picking up one here, one there every year, pick up a mantle or two until I finally got to the mantle run, except for that one, you know. And then it's okay, now this has got
Yeah.
to be my focus. And,
Well.
ended up selling a lot of shit, but at the end, I got to it. And to me, every time I look at that card, it's like, man, all the card shows that I did, all this buying and selling that I did to get this Hank Aaron card or this Jackie Robinson card that I ended up selling to get that Mantle card. Because I don't have any Jackie Robinson cards. I sold them all, you know. And have very few Willie Mays cards. I sold them all. And I only have a few Hank Aaron cards that I kept. But for the most part, I'll get those later. But
Yeah.
I had to get that Mantle. It was just the journey and the right finally
Yeah.
finishing
Like,
that marathon.
real quick, how we talked about like how you change, like, or how I say like my style change. Uh, Growing up as a set builder collector, let's say before, I always give the advice like, yeah, first thing you need to do is buy a starter set and get as many commons as you get, and then get the stars at the end. Well, that's no longer the case
No.
because, like I said, a Mickey Mantle card kind of stayed in the same place forever. It may increase very, very little. But then
Yes.
all of a sudden, we went through a period where $500 card was now 2,000. It's like, whoa, now my advice changed. Hey,
Yeah.
get the star cards first because now all of a sudden they might be out of range in a year or two, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I always say that. I always say that whenever you're starting a set, I mean, yeah, it's great to pick up. Sorry, I'm just getting some for Mike Petty here. Whenever you're starting a set, it's always better to get the big cards first, because what happens is that, let's say you're halfway through the set and you haven't picked up a lot of the stars, and all of a sudden the star prices go up, 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 up,
Yeah,
up, and you're like, oh man, do I really want to complete the set? But if you've got the Mantle, you got Aaron, you got a few of the big name cards, and you're 50% through the set, then I got to finish it now.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just missing the small guys, the little cards. I can get those anytime. I can pick those up. So yeah, this is the Ruth montage that Mike Petty was talking about. That's the
Nice.
Babe
That's
Ruth
beautiful.
montage card. And this is one of my favorite Ruths because it has Ruth as him there, like almost watching the game in the stands, right? And then it has him standing up, like batting. And then on the bottom, it has him batting in the field there, like the whole field version. So it's called the montage. And that's the American Caramel Ruth. So as a Yankee fan, you know, I always wanted Babe Ruth cards. So that was just something that, I had to get a Babe Ruth card. I really wanted to get a Babe Ruth card. And so that was my first Babe Ruth card. I love that montage card. And then I picked up this one here, which was the American
Oh,
Caramel Babe Ruth card. And this is my favorite one because it's an actual picture of Babe Ruth, just like the other one. And I don't like the strip cards because it's just drawing and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I have some strip cards, but I don't really like them too much. And then the latest one that I picked up was this Harrington's, which is an Harrington's ice cream Babe Ruth card there.
Man, that's
So
nice.
yeah, man, I wanted to have some Babe Ruth cards, and I figured, I've got to pick one up, and slowly I picked one up, and I picked up another one, and it's just one of those things, little by little, little by little. And I picked up other cards that I always wanted. Another one of my dream cards. When I would look at the old magazines, I would see this card of King Kelly, and it's a famous card. You see it all the time.
The
This one
colors
and
are nice.
the Cap Anson is the other one you see a lot. Let me get you the Cap Anson. That's really the more famous one. But I saw those cards, and here, this one here,
Yeah.
that Cap Anson, that's one of the more famous one there, the set. So I love these sets. When I went back into history, I
He
always
was a
thought that I
Triple
was going
Crown
to get
winner, right?
myself some of these sets, some of those cards. And, back in the day, this one here, I don't like to say how much I got it for, but it cost me $1,400. It was a lot of money back then. It was about 15 years ago. But right now, this card is probably like a $5,000 card or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's not a cheap card anymore. And it's just one of those things that they were, not very popular back then. But as a historian of baseball cards, because that's what I consider myself. I just love the history of baseball cards. I like to go back and look at, what were the first cards and how were they made and those type of things. So that's why I like to go back and look at, the old cards like the Mayo Cup plugs and those type of cards like that. It's one of those. It's just, to me, it's just a history. Going back and looking at the old time players like the, Grover Cleveland Alexanders and Rube Marquard. And all these guys have really awesome stories. And one of the things that I told you before, I try to pick up cards that I can get raw and get a good price, and I'll grade them. Look at this. Check this out. Rookie
Ooh.
Warren Spahn. It graded a 3. I got it for $100.
Wow, that's a steal.
Got it for $100 raw. I graded it last year, and they came out a 3. And now it's like I don't know, $300-$400 car, something like that. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I like to do to, and will I sell this card? I may. If I see a nice card that I want, because you could always buy these, you could always find them. They're out there at all the shows, but if I find something that I can't find normally, like one of these little strip cards or something like that, if I find something that I may want of a great player, who knows, I'll trade it. I'll see what I can do. So I do trade a lot of stuff, and that's one of the things I do, to try to do some more trading than anything else, So,
Yeah,
Caesar, man, look at that. We've been talking, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, my phone is actually about to die. It's telling me I'm at 3% now.
Yeah, my headphones died already, so but it's been it's been super fun, man, super fun. So I don't know what's happening with the football game, so I'm probably gonna check out the game, but I don't know. I mean, it's been great. I don't know. Let's see who's been talking about here. Boomslang says that they're doing a 39 and 41 play ball sets. That's an awesome set.
Yeah,
awesome set. I think I have only 1 or 2 of those cards from that.
What is it? Is it like the 40 and the 41 where they're almost the same pictures, but one was black and white and one was color?
Yeah. That's them. And one of the things that I like to do is kind of like what Mangini does, pick up a card here and there from all the different sets, all the different old sets. And I think that's something that's really cool, because you're able to really learn from the different cards and kind of pick up some stuff that that sometimes you just don't see. I'll pull some more cards out, but yeah, it's just interesting to go back and look at all the different card sets and all the different things that have been produced all over the different years, and really see what you like, and you may find something that you really enjoyed. To me, my favorite was that set that I showed you, the that Goodwin set, that has the first
Yeah,
football card in it.
they're so amazing.
You
It's
know,
hard to believe they're
so
done so long
from
ago.
the 1800s. So I fell in love with this set, so I focused on trying to get some cards and do that set. And as a set builder, I'm a completist, and I wanted to complete that set. And it
That's
took
a tough
me about over 20 years to finish that set. There's only 50 cards, Caesar, in the set, 50 cards in total, but they're so rare that there's none of the cards. There's over 100 that exist. It's always less than 100 cards. Even the big players, like Cap Anson, there's only like 100 or 90 cards of
one. Yeah,
that.
that's tough.
So, and so it was a challenge for me, and so I sold a lot of my 50s and 60s sets, going back trying to do some of those things, and just I just loved it. Love the old stuff. So
Yeah, same thing with me, man. Vintage. When I took when I got back into the hobby with the penny saver, I think I was only buying vintage basically from about 2006 till about 2015. 2015 is when I got back into modern. But before that, all those years was like I only wanted vintage that I
yeah,
couldn't get as a kid.
yeah. No, let me tell you, it's not that I don't do modern or anything like that, because yeah, like everybody, we all opened packs and stuff like that. I mean, I remember pulling this Acuna rookie, you know,
Mm.
from a pack. So I do have some modern and stuff that I pulled out of packs like we all did. But my if I buy one or two boxes a year, that's pretty much about it for me. You know, I will rip some cards every once in a while. I'll buy some packs here and
Mm.
there, just for the fun of it. And I may buy a box, once a year. But for the most part, my hobby dollars, is going to be going into specific cards that I'm targeting more than just, luck of the draw.
Yeah, that's what's fun about the hobby, man. To each their own. I just
Yeah.
love to learn what everybody else is collecting and doing, and shouldn't be any judgment passed upon everybody. Respect what everybody's doing so they can respect what you're doing too.
I love it. I love watching all the content on YouTube, no matter if I don't collect it or not. I just watching people have fun with their collection, and just watching them enjoy the hobby. That's really what I like to see. They love it. I love it.
Okay. Well, my phone says it's about to die. I don't want to end this with just a blank screen. So I want to say goodbye. And thanks for doing this, man. It was a great chat.
Yo,
Thought it
yo,
was
yo.
awesome. All right. Okay. Everybody, thanks for watching, man. Love the hobby and just keep collecting baseball cards forever, I say. All right. Thanks, Orlando. All right.
Thanks.
Bye. Ciao.